explain the mashup that occurs around the OK Corral. Mm-hmm. I still cannot explain or understand who's mad at who. How in the world is it Doc Holliday's business?
This is something that Virgil Earp said. Whenever there was a posse formed, Doc Holliday was always there to help out. It's like, yeah.
So he's like, I'm sick, I'm half dead, I'm drunk.
Yeah.
I'd love to throw in.
Yeah, no, he does.
It's a fun time.
When he's needed. Well, plus his buddies are there. You know, well, there's Wyatt, there's Morgan. He's the same age as Morgan.
So he just gets excited when there's a posse.
It's like your buddy drew a tag, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
This is the MeatEater podcast coming at you shirtless, severely bug-bitten, and in my case, underwearless.
We hunt the MeatEater podcast.
You can't predict anything.
Brought to you by First Light. When I'm hunting, I need gear that won't quit. First Light builds no compromise gear that keeps me in the field longer. No shortcuts, just gear that works. Check it out at firstlight.com. That's FIRSTLITE.com. Joined today by author Mark Lee Gardner, expert on all things Wild West. But first, the Bob Cratchit Report.
Do you think the audience looks forward to the Bob Cratchit Report every Monday?
That's the thing I've been worried about.
Yeah, you think
that maybe no one cares
as
much as I care.
I think you're onto something there.
How's it going? How's it going as Bob Cratchit? Just real quick, Phil's, just so everybody knows, people just discovering the show. Phil is he's been cast in A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, it's true. We just
Tiny Tim's dad.
Tiny Tim's dad. Rehearsals are rolling. They're going well. It's always fun watching it come together. You know, it's show business, baby. We're I don't have a whole lot to add, Steve. In case you
but do you get like groupies?
Groupies?
Yeah.
Theater groupies?
Like girls that want to come talk to you?
I the first time someone asked me to sign their program in the alley behind the theater, I was taken. I was taken
Phil
aback.
thought he was getting mugged, and he realized
they do exist, but they are few and far between.
Mm.
Yeah.
Phil, do you use a special Bob Cratchit voice in the show?
Yeah. How do you say stuff?
I do have an English accent.
Oh, I think you guys could just not do that.
You just think we should go full American, just spanning all different regions of the United States.
Yeah, like I was saying, you would do U.S. currency.
U.S. Yeah, because that's confusing.
And just have you ever watched Death of Stalin?
Oh yeah, that's the guy who created Veep did that.
Yeah, phenomenal movie.
Yeah, really.
But everybody just talks like how they talk. They're not all trying to have that Boris. Like, do the accent you do when you're a Russian in a movie.
I've never been a Russian in a movie, but it's sure.
They don't do all that.
Yeah.
And it's like Steve Buscemi, but he talks like he's Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, that's good. I think you are masking your love for theater and spectacle. You try to direct it towards me. But this is just a way for you to share all of your ideas that you have for how to just create a great theater production. I think you're in the wrong line of work, frankly, Steve.
Yeah, that's true. Because you know what my wife points out to me a lot of times? A lot of times I'll yell at my kids about something, and she's like, "You're talking through the kids to me. This is me you're talking about." Because I can get away with that, but I can't get away with saying it to her. So I'll say it to them in her presence.
Yeah.
Like, who left all this laying everywhere? But I know it's her.
My wife does the exact same thing to me.
I hate to tell you this, but that might be a universal tactic because I tend to do the same thing.
Yeah. They're like, Mom did. Oh, it was Mom. Okay. Just don't like to see that. Just make sure it's not you guys.
By the time this airs, you and I will probably be coordinating our outfits to
go see Bob Cratchit.
Mm-hmm. The matinee.
I'm going to have a sign that says, "I'm here for Cratchit."
Love it.
Mark Lee Gardner is the author, historian of the West, musician. I didn't know this. Turkey hunting enthusiast?
I'm an addict.
Seriously?
Yes. Every spring.
Huh. Rare book collector.
Yes.
And I heard that you compete with Randall in estate sales.
I do, yes. If there's one today, I'll be there, right?
Ooh.
But they're usually not on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Author of many books. You know what I liked that you did a lot? You did that thing where you do, what's that thing called where you do like you take questions like Wild West questions. It's on what the hell was that?
Wired.
Wired. Where you like you're like the helpline and you field Wild West questions. Dude, you got a lot of breadth when it comes to Wild West history. Like good Wild West details.
Well, thanks. Yeah.
Here's some of Mark's books. What are we sitting here right in front? Right here we got, in front of me, I got Shot All to Hell, Jesse James, The Northfield Raid and the Wild West Greatest Escape. We got Brothers of the Gun sitting in front of us. Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, and A Reckoning in Tombstone. Also the author of Wagons for the Santa Fe Trade. That sounds very detailed.
It's very detailed. I think it sold like 300 copies. It's very specific.
Yeah.
It's the definitive book on wagons.
But that's like hard history.
Hard history. That's what they call a material culture study. Yeah.
Okay. And explain that to folks real quick. Like what will they learn in that book, Wagons for the Santa Fe
So
Trade?
they're going to learn what the freight wagons look like, what they were made out of, and how the styles changed from the 1820s up through when the trail ended in 1880. How many mules, what weight, they'd average 6,000 pounds or 3 tons. I mean, the dimensions, all from primary sources, newspaper accounts. And it was actually the first study of freight wagons. And it came about because the Santa Fe Trail was made a National Historic Trail by the Park Service. But it's also the only book on Santa Fe Trail freight wagons. So
you got To Hell on a Fast Horse, The Untold Story of Billy the Kid and Pat Garrett. That's a good one. We talked about Shot All to Hell. You got a book on Roosevelt.
I do, on the Rough Riders.
Rough Riders. Theodore Roosevelt, his cowboy regiment, and the immortal charge up San Juan Hill. And a book on one of my personal favorite subjects. I'm kind of a little bighorn Edmund Fitzgerald guy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think I might do a shirt where it's the Edmund Fitzgerald, but Custer's on it.
Combining,
just bringing everything together.
Yeah,
it would be the only shirt like that in the world.
That book, I haven't read yours on this, but I'd like to. The Earth is All That Lasts. Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull, and the Last Stand of the Great Sioux Nation. Does that cover like the summer of '76?
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah. I mean, I have a whole chapter on just the battle itself, but it's their life story. It's a dual biography of both these Lakota leaders. But yeah, I have a lot of information about the battle, and I just stopped there on the way up here, actually, yesterday.
Isn't it haunted, man?
Yes.
It's haunted, dude.
Yeah.
It's one of those few places. Speaking of like if you're in Whitefish Bay, you can feel the Edmund Fitzgerald. If you're on Last Stand Hill, you can feel it. It's like you can feel it. I cried on Last Stand Hill first time I went there. I went there on the anniversary.
Oh.
My buddy Seth got married on the anniversary, different time.
Oh.
Not him. That's Brody.
Okay. Yeah.
Although, I got a couple ancestors that were in that battle.
Yeah, if you look at the dead, Brody's all over that.
Oh, wow. Well, it's a very moving sight. I completely agree with you. I mean,
it's
especially
haunted.
if you can go there, they're open. Well, they used to be, who knows now, but they used to be open till dusk, the sunset, and nobody's there then. And you just stand on Last Stand Hill or go to Reno Hill. It's just a very moving, just a neat experience.
Yeah, a lot of suffering that day. But the thing you can't get over is just the absolute exuberance that must have been felt by the Northern Cheyenne and the Sioux to be like, just after like all these just stunning defeats and massacres, to just that one day, one time, just
and
bring it to them. You know what I mean? Like how good for them, how good that day must have felt.
I think you're absolutely right, but also it was a tremendous relief. I mean, these soldiers had come to kill them. I mean, they had families and children in the village, and they had protected. I mean, that was the reason they were fighting. It wasn't just to get a victory over the white man, but those soldiers were going to hurt them, and they were protecting their families and their mothers and sisters. And they did it. And then there's all this booty they got, Springfield carbines and Colt revolvers. Of course, Sitting Bull had warned them in his vision that they weren't supposed to take anything from the soldiers. And if they did, it would mean their doom. But they disobeyed the vision, and some Lakotas feel that was the downfall of their people. But yeah, the vision told them, do not take booty, do not take souvenirs or whatever. But how could you help? Not help. There's all this stuff, ammunition and horses, and so yeah, they took plenty of booty.
Have you ever read the account of Wooden Leg?
Mm-hmm. It's one of the best accounts, Cheyenne accounts.
Yeah, he leaves the battlefield. He face scalped a guy at the battlefield. Tried to give it to his mom or grandma. She didn't want it. Like a sideburn scalp. Splits. They all take off. The cavalry, the survivors, the surviving cavalry guys come up. They scour the whole battlefield, bury everyone. Wooden Leg and his buddies go off to the west to go hunt for Crow Indians. They don't find any Crow. They find one family and decide not to kill him for some reason. He doesn't explain why they decided not to kill him. And then they come back to the battlefield to get stuff that they remember that they didn't grab at the time. So if I remember right, there should be a few shells over here.
Yeah.
Or I remember I threw a belt down in the bushes there, and they were kind of coming back through looking for stuff. Just wild.
Well, they were finding stuff at the battle. I mean, for decades. I mean, they were still finding stuff that had been lost, and maybe an arroyo washes out, and they find a canteen. And one guy, I mean, this involved a court case. It was maybe in the 1960s or 70s. Found a pair of binoculars.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, and then of course he told people about it, and he was arrested. And it was a huge deal.
No kidding.
Yeah, you're not supposed to take anything
Sure,
from the National Park Service sites or federal land. So,
have you read Plainsman of the Yellowstone?
Yes, but it's been a long time. So.
That's a hell of a book.
Yeah.
But there's an interesting take. Like I said, I've always been a little bighorn buff. In Plainsman of the Yellowstone, he treats it he's a lot of his to summarize his view. He's everybody loves it. Everybody writes books about it. It didn't matter. It was a non-event. This all landed where it was going to land where it landed. They were going to kill them all and bring them on the reservations. And they did. And it's a non-event. It was just a nothing. If you look at what actually matters, he's it's a thing that historians love to talk about, but it didn't matter.
The only reason it's huge, of course, is because of the guy that was killed, George Custer, right? I mean, the Civil War. I mean, truly an amazing soldier in the Civil War. I mean, he earned all the accolades that he got, and he's this darling, the American Army and
Michigan man.
Yeah. He the Michigan Brigade, the Fighting Wolverines, and all that stuff. So, but anyway, yeah. I mean, if it had been some other officer, maybe it wouldn't have been as big a deal or as covered as widely as it was. But it was Custer, the guy that had this amazing reputation. He had fought Indians before at the Washita. So, the story about no one knew who he was. The Lakotas and Cheyennes didn't know. It was George Custer.
That's contested.
It is contested a little bit, but
there's a Cheyenne woman there's a Southern Cheyenne woman that was visiting and was there. She said she recognized him.
She did. That's in my book, actually.
Oh,
yeah. They were going to scalp and mutilate him, and she said, "No, stop. He's the husband of Monacita." Who she claimed that Custer had married. But anyway,
and it was her that took the sewing awl,
yes,
and punctured his eardrums,
yes,
right?
Yeah, because that goes back to when after the Washita in Oklahoma, he met with some Cheyenne leaders, and one of the Cheyenne leaders dumped some ashes from his pipe, on his boots, and he said that was so that he would remember next time, he'd keep his promise that he would not go against their people or whatever, and so the reason for puncturing the awl into his eardrum was so that he would hear better in the other world.
Yeah. And I think she said, maybe I kicked dirt up on him with my horse.
Oh.
I think that's something she said. She was speculating that could have happened.
But, he wasn't, apparently, he had a fingertip cut off, but he wasn't mutilated like all the other bodies. I mean, Tom Custer was just unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And the idea behind that was that in the land of ghosts, what you did to them in this world, that's how they would be in the land of ghost.
Yeah, there's that move of like make it so you can't run.
Sure, yeah.
Make it so you can't shoot.
You're ugly.
Make it so you can't make love.
Right. So, but no, he was apparently, it was very, in good shape.
I believe there was 2 guys that weren't touched. One guy was under a pile of dead horses, so that it doesn't seem like they found him. And the other guy was Captain Keogh. And Captain Keogh had on a he was some, I don't know, some like branch of Catholicism. I can't remember what the hell it was.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And he had on
Miles
some kind of emblem, some kind of jewelry that, and all this stuff is like, it's everybody contradicts everybody. You know what I mean? It's like so-and-so said this, so-and-so says that. So-and-so says no one recognized them, so-and-so says they recognized them. Either way, he had this thing on, this religious piece.
I think he was in a papal guard at one time or something, and it might have had to do with that. I can't remember.
Anyways, they're like, they felt that he might be some kind of religious figure and didn't mess with him.
Well, he was a highly respected officer. He was one of the more well-liked officers in the 7th Cavalry.
I think his horse is the only thing that survived.
Comanche. Well, the Lakotas and Cheyenne survived.
Oh, sorry. The only, the only, I shouldn't say the only thing that survived.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say?
Of the men with Custer and their horses, I guess.
Yeah. And they wound up stuffing that horse. And
they did. You can go see it in Lawrence, Kansas.
Is that where it is?
It's at the Natural History Museum.
Is it on display?
Yes. Oh, yeah. And they not too long ago, they kind of refurbished Comanche. But no, yeah. So he's there because he was at Fort Riley in his last years in Kansas.
Okay.
And yeah, he's it's mounted, and he's got a McClellan saddle, and yeah.
And he had some arrow holes in him and some bullet holes. I think he's crippled up pretty good.
He was, yeah. I mean, but apparently they felt he would survive. He was in good enough shape. So they made sure they kept him, took him back.
This has nothing to do with that. We'll get on with this in a minute. But after all the buffalo were killed off, we were talking about this in our hide hunters thing. After all the buffalo were killed off, Hornaday came out to put together a museum collection. And he comes out and starts scouring the country between the Yellowstone and Missouri and eastern Montana, trying to find museum specimens. Works his ass off, can't find any. But the biggest bull he finds that he kills for the museum, he kills it. It's already carrying 4 slugs in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Already carrying them. So they can put up with something.
Theodore Roosevelt went into the Badlands. He just had to kill a buffalo, and later he becomes, later he was wanting to preserve the buffalo, but he did it after he got his buffalo. Then it's time to preserve them. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, preservation starts now. He killed 2. The second one he regretted a little bit, I think. He killed one in Medora, right? Outside of Medora. Yeah. Then killed one outside the park somewhere, I believe. Didn't he? Randall? Randall's got a PhD in history.
Okay.
Well, do you got one of those?
No, I don't. No.
His is right up there. It's the smaller one underneath my very big one.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Think of that.
Yeah. It's almost like a to scale replica.
Yeah. I don't even know why you have that there.
Because guests like you come in would get intimidated.
Oh, okay. All right.
You'd be like, oh. With the big guns now.
Yeah.
Yours is a nice frame.
Yeah. You could enlarge it.
Yeah, I know. I should just photocopy it.
Yeah. Yeah, enlarge it.
I want to get into your books, but can we hit you with some? Because when you did that thing for Wired, where you answer Old West questions,
yes.
Can we hit you with some Old West questions?
You can hit me with some Old West questions. I don't know if I'll have the answer, but I'll try.
Is there any reason to believe? Is there any reason whatsoever to believe that people would is there like a famous case example of someone getting shot and falling over a balcony rail? Do you know what I mean? Like that is such a trope of Westerns.
I can't.
Is there like a famous story that inspires all those scenes?
Yeah, nothing famous. I mean, there may be, this may have happened sometime in the Old West, but I'm not aware of any famous incident.
So they just like it, and it became a trope. And
I think so. Yeah. Now I'll probably get lots of emails. Yeah. Oh yeah, Frank James knocked that guy off the balcony. No, I don't know of any famous case.
Were those doors, the swinging doors, was that a thing?
Well, I got in trouble for that.
Okay.
So I didn't think it was.
What do they call them? Batwing doors?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I looked at historic photos and could not find, these swinging doors. But apparently they were used late in the 19th century. But for instance, there's an episode with Doc Holliday, and it gets really nerdy. But, Doc Holliday got into a gunfight, a minor gunfight in Leadville. And it's in this saloon. And it talks about this guy walking in the door. So it's like, well, it wasn't, these swinging doors. He walked in a door, and it had glass in it. So,
you don't picture anyone knocking.
No, yeah. But anyway, but apparently there were, late in the 19th century, you did start to see them introduced. And the idea was behind it, they didn't want like children looking in, being able to see in the summertime.
Oh, that's what that
so
is?
it kind of blocks their view and also lets some air in because I'm sure it was filled full of cigar smoke and pipe
I was going to say, it seems like a seasonal style.
And then a lot of these saloons that had the swinging doors, they had both doors. They had a door you could close, but also they had the swinging doors as well. So like you say, in the summer.
It's like a little privacy screen.
It's kind of a privacy screen, yeah. But I just don't see it prevalent like in the 1870s Dodge City or Wichita. I have not seen any evidence that it was.
That's a good idea to look at all those old photos and do you see them or not?
Exactly, yeah. And go through the newspaper account. I mean, you could even go through advertisements in historic newspapers and see, oh, yeah, here's the new swinging door you need it for your saloon or whatever. So,
But that doesn't exist or it does exist?
Well, it does exist. You mean the ads?
The ads.
No, I have not come across
You've not seen those
No, but
advertised.
apparently there are patents for these kind of spring-loaded hinges. I haven't seen them, but I've been told that there's actually patents that were done so that they swing back and forth. I mean, you would have to have something, to make it do that, I guess. So.
If I ever build a house from scratch or do a big remodel, I was already planning on putting in a urinal.
Okay.
I'm going to do them damn doors, too.
There you go, yeah. Okay.
Huh.
What kind of urinal? Like a trough or like a communal one or
Like kind of the airport.
standalone?
Like kind of the airport.
Yeah.
Next to the toilet.
I've actually been in restrooms in houses that had those swinging doors or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have.
But see, I want to create tension where I'm going to have a very modern home, but old swinging doors.
Okay. All right.
Do you know what I mean? Like it'll like it creates a power balance between the two motifs.
For the bedroom, that would be good, right?
Yeah.
Kitchen.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Privacy screen.
Yeah.
Okay, Corinne was saying you got some insights into cowboy hats.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Cowboy hats.
What do you want to know?
Oh, it
Like,
was
did
just-
everybody? Okay, let's.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Like, what would you regard to be? I know you've said in the past. Someone said, like, when did the Wild West end? And you thought the Wild West ended with the car.
When you don't see horses on the streets anymore, that seems to me that era is gone. So.
When it was like that you were just pointing out there's ways people define the end.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Like some people will say like barbed wire.
Right.
Like the open range closed, land was owned, it was fenced, the West died, and you had to take that like you view it like when the horse ceases to be the primary mode of transportation.
Yeah, I just think the horse is so interwoven with the American West. I mean, cowboys and buggies, and mules, of course, pulling wagon. I mean, when you don't see that kind of those animals as transportation, I mean, that's so associated with the West. I mean, you don't have a cowboy without a horse.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no cowboys that are just afoot. I mean, they're on horseback, and same with the Plains Indians. I mean, their mobility is because of the horse, and so when the horse is not part of that fabric, I just see that as kind of the end of what you could call the Old West. Now, you could argue, is that 1930s? I mean, 1940s? Because, in some places of Wyoming and Montana, I'm sure people are still riding their horses into town in the 1940s, maybe even the 50s.
Yeah, they're all like working on the Manhattan Project, and dudes are riding around on horses.
Sure.
20 minutes from here, I saw a guy get off his horse and go to Stacy's, right in Gallatin Gateway.
Was he being cute?
No, I think he had the proper jeans and the proper boots. So
He might have been being
and his
cute.
driver's license was suspended.
You know those? What are those
Actually,
little?
maybe.
I like to play that game whenever we see an adult on a bicycle.
Or a lawnmower. Yeah.
What are those little scooters? You know those little like not a hoverboard.
Segways?
Yeah. But there's no handlebars on one of those.
Oh, the little.
What's the kind with no handlebars?
Those are
just
called
so
hoverboards.
The
but,
hoverboards, yeah.
Those are so
The other
fun.
day, just not far from here, on Kagi,
Uh-huh.
there's a guy going down the road on one of those with a white cowboy hat on the phone.
Everything
I'm not
that's
kidding.
wrong
Taking a
with this
picture
town.
of that and sent it to
Just
Hipsters
cruising
of
down.
Bozeman.
No, he wasn't like no. I wasn't
I
getting
hate the
hipster-
world.
Really?
Wasn't a hipster vibe.
Oh.
I was getting more of a crazy guy vibe. But still, I loved everything about it. I was like,
A local eccentric.
yeah. So to my like I'm trying to weigh stereotypes to the reality real quick. Just gotta have a handful of these. You go to, let's pick a year, 1870. Okay. Is it really like in 1870? Is it really that like there is the wide brimmed hat, and that's like it? No, all men wear a hat, and all men wear a cowboy style hat.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't. I mean, your cowboys in the 70s, they're going to have some kind of a wide brimmed hat. But I think that if you look at historic photos, there's a lot of variety, even into how they wear them. I mean, some guys have their hats tilted up.
Yeah.
I mean, the crowns are creased. I mean, there's just a lot of difference. So I just don't think you can say there's one standard. You can probably look at what's working.
I mean I mean the broader family of like a hat with a body of a hat and then a wide circular brim.
Yes.
A hat that a tourist would buy on vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty standard.
It's like when you leave home in 1870, if you're a man, you're not bald. You're not hatless.
No. The hat is very common. Now a little bit later, you have the introduction of the bowler hat, or the derby hat, or whatever. And there was a story about in Tombstone, if somebody came in wearing a derby hat, that Doc Holliday would go around with a triangle, ringing a bell behind them, and kind of harassing them or whatever because they stuck out. They were a little bit.
Well, what was he calling them out about?
I think because they were like a newbie or like a dude, or it's just maybe a little uppity or something. You're wearing this kind of latest fashion, and so he's going around. But apparently he was reported as wearing a derby hat later, a few years later. So I don't know how
What
if
does
that.
look like?
It's a bold. You see, I'm sure
A
you've
lot
seen
of a lot of the later gunfighters had those kind of.
Well, often there's like
yeah,
an English villain in the cowboy
Yes,
movies that
yeah,
wears a bowler
right.
Yeah,
hat.
and Masterson, I think there's a photo of him wearing a derby hat. Later in his career.
Did they all wear slip-on cowboy boots with jangly metal spurs that announce their presence?
Well, they definitely wore cowboy boots, and they could go up to the knee. There's different styles of those boots. One of the more interesting to me is what they call a mule-ear boot. Have you heard of this? So on the sides, instead of having the leather loops that you would pull up, there's a long leather strap on each side that you could grab onto and pull they call them mule-ear boots. So you could
just
pull them on.
a strap, not a loop.
Just a strap, yeah, a long strap, maybe like that long, that you would grab hold of. Those were fairly popular.
And then you tuck them inside.
No, you leave them on the outside. They're flapping on the outside.
Oh, hence the name mule ears.
Yeah. And there's different theories. I mean, these boots, they could be very tall. They go up to the knee or whatever. And you're out on the range, and their boots are sweaty when you take them off at night. They get wet, and it might be a little nicer to have something to really grab hold of to pull those on.
Yeah.
The story of Billy the Kid, the night he was killed, and he was in his stocking feet. And a lot of people think that, he would never walk across that parade ground in his stocking feet. And it's like, do you want to pull your boots back on after you've taken them off? You've been in them all day. And no, it might be easier just to walk over here across the corner and get that slab of meat and just leave the boots behind. So,
when Billy the Kid went over to get a chunk of meat off that thing, like, what was the sort of situation? Is it just sort of matter of course that there's a side of beef hanging in the courtyard?
Well, no, it's not a matter of course, but he had been told. So he gets in really late to this house at Fort Sumner, this adobe building, and he's hungry. And the woman in the house, who is Pat Garrett's sister-in-law.
His Billy the Kid's girlfriend, though.
There's some dispute on whether she was the girlfriend. The family says that they were not boyfriend-girlfriend, so we don't know for sure. But anyway, he was staying there, and she had a husband who was there too. So, but anyway, she tells him that there's a side of beef hanging over at Pete Maxwell's place. So that's why he goes over there with the butcher knife and his gun, because if he gets the meat, she was going to cook it up for him. And then that's where, he meets Garrett's 2 guards, or deputies, I should say, are outside, and they don't know what Billy the Kid looks like. And they think he's a ranch hand or he works for Pete Maxwell. But as soon as Billy approaches them, he sees these guys in the shadows and he pulls his gun right away and he's going, K&S, who is it? And John Poe, one of the deputies, is saying, okay, calm down, friend. We're not going to hurt you or whatever. Yeah. But they don't know it's Billy. And that's when he gets up on the porch. He backs into the room. Pat Garrett is on the side of Maxwell's bed and he recognizes Billy's voice, as does Pete Maxwell. And he says, that's him. And Pat Garrett, now here's the thing, people are always on Pat Garrett. It's like, oh, you didn't give Billy a chance to kill you. Well, Billy the Kid had said he was going to kill Pat Garrett the next time he saw him. And he'd already killed a Lincoln County sheriff and a Lincoln County deputy. And why would Pat Garrett give this guy a chance? It's like it was Billy the Kid, so he shoots right away.
Sure.
The first shot gets him in the heart, and then he fires a second shot. It's a moonlit night, but if you fired a Colt revolver, black powder smoke, the smoke fills the room, and so he fires right away. You want to make sure he got him. Of course, Billy had already collapsed by then. He runs out, and Pete Maxwell runs out, and they almost shoot Pete Maxwell, the deputies, because these guys are outside. They hear a gunshot, and they don't know what's going on. And anyway, they say, don't shoot. That's Pete, whatever. And then they light a candle, put it in the window, and they see his body inside, and they've got Billy the Kid. But anyway, Pat Garrett wrote a book later called The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid. And he says, people have accused me of hiding behind a couch. And he says, if there had been a couch, I would have been hiding behind it. Why would I, I'm not an idiot,
Oh, so. But that whole thing of like being chivalrous around shooting. Mm-hmm. The way we hit dudes now, we do it from outer space.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is
it's like you're just driving down the road in your car. It's not like someone comes out and is like, stick them up.
Yeah, or in your boat.
Yeah.
But here's Steve. Here's the thing about that. It's like, and I think what's so amazing about Wyatt Earp, most of his job, or a lot of his job, was disarming drunken cowboys. There were these laws in these towns. Whether it was Wichita or Dodge City, you can't carry a gun.
Uh-huh.
And so today, you can go to YouTube, and if a policeman sees a gun, they shout gun and the fireworks start. You're going to be dead. But Wyatt Earp went up to these guys, and he would physically disarm them. And usually his technique, he was hit him in the head with the barrel of his revolver. But he was so close quarters time and again in disarming these guys. And, he had no training. There was no police academy then to go to.
Couldn't go on YouTube.
No. There was nobody knew about karate or whatever. It's like he had to physically disarm them. And I tell you, lots of officers got killed disarming cowboys. So Ed Masterson, he was the sheriff or the marshal in Dodge City. He was killed disarming a cowboy.
Is he related to Bat Masterson?
Yes, he is. He was a brother.
Oh, okay.
Fred White in Tombstone, and if you saw the movie, you see where Curly Bill kills. Fred White was trying to disarm, and he grabbed the gun and pulled it towards him, and the gun goes off, and he gets a mortal wound. So it was a very dangerous thing to be a law officer disarming cowboys, and they didn't do it at a distance. They did it up close. Bat Masterson said Wyatt Earp was the bravest man he'd ever known. He showed no fear whatsoever, and he survived. He never got wounded. Which is kind of bizarre too. So,
what do you take of the? I see here that Wyatt Earp's 6-shooter is up for sale right now.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
It's being auctioned?
Yes.
I haven't pulled up the link yet.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where the auction says it comes with a binder full of provenance, and the provenance is this. So I'm
looking at the site right now.
Okay. So this man was a friend of Wyatt Earp and also a friend of Josephine, but who is Wyatt's wife.
It's a 45 Colt?
Yes. And it was purchased in, they have the Colt letter. So it was purchased in Los Angeles at a store in 1922. Wyatt Earp doesn't die till 1929. So this man who was a friend of Wyatt, he dies. But then his son remains close to Josephine, Wyatt's wife. And the son got the revolver, and then he told his children, Josephine told me that this was Wyatt's gun. So we don't have a letter from Josephine saying it's Wyatt's gun. We have this guy's word, the son of the man who was a friend, and their children, the grandchildren, are saying, here's our, and they sign notarized statements and all that kind of thing. But also, I mean, Josephine was known to acquire a gun or two and claim that it belonged to Wyatt. Jesse James' mom did the same thing. She would buy guns and, this belonged to my son.
Oh, really?
And then she would make money. She actually, this is funny. So they would sell at Jesse James' grave. He was buried next to the house there in near Kearney initially, and they would sell pebbles from the grave of Jesse.
I'd buy one of those.
Yeah, I would too. But then when they ran out of pebbles, they went to the creek and got more pebbles and put them on the grave. So I get, it was still from his grave, but it wasn't there a long time, a short time. So every Wyatt Earp gun, there's a question on provenance. I mean, you're just not sure. And to me, it may very well be true. That story may be true. But like I said, anymore, you would almost have to have somebody dig up Wyatt and pick the gun out of his grave to say, that was for sure. And it's the same thing with all of these Old West figures and outlaws. And there's such a big money involved. And one of the banes of a historian's existence is that courthouses have been raided of documents with Wyatt Earp's any Earp, Virgil
so just the document is valuable.
Yeah. I mean, they'll clip the signatures and I know of cases when I was researching this book that Wyatt Earp's certificate where he commissioned as a lawman in Missouri. Nobody knows where it is. Fortunately, there's a microfilm copy of it, but people have gone in and these county courthouses are not well protected or secured, especially the remote ones. Lincoln County, New Mexico, a lot of government legal documents with Pat Garrett's name on it have been stolen. In fact, a few years ago, there was a collection. It was offered at auction, and the state of New Mexico went in, and then they were county records. I mean, they were legal government documents, and they approached the auction company and said, these belong to us. And the family, in order to avoid, they just donated them back to the state. And here's the thing people should know, Steve, is that if it's a government document, it never ceases to be a government document. Even if you found it at the dump, it's still a government document. So something comes up for sale that's illegal, like a land patent or whatever it is. If it's a county, like a warrant for arrest or whatever, don't buy it because, it doesn't belong to the public. It belongs to that county or the state or wherever it came from. But a lot of collectors, they just can't resist. Oh, I got to have this. It's got Pat Garrett's signature on it or whatever. But anyway, it makes a historian's life a nightmare because, it's removing the historical record. And so we're missing chunks of information because these documents ended up in private hands and are taken out of these courthouses. And then sometimes they're destroyed or lost or whatever. So we don't even know what we're missing. So it makes it really, really tough.
I got a buddy, well, he's dead now, but he was a very well-known arrowhead hunter. He's kind of like an outlaw turned good arrowhead hunter.
Okay.
He was down in Colorado. He'd been a oil engineer, oil executive. I can't remember. I think he like came up through engineering, became an executive, but was a big arrowhead hunter, and then turned legit. Started volunteering for site surveys and whatnot. Anyhow, I was driving around with him one day in New Mexico, and he's telling me a story. He's at some kind of estate sale or yard sale or something or another, and he sees a Folsom Point bolo tie.
Oh, wow.
And like something about the patination on it, like he knew it was a Folsom Point. It wasn't a fake. Like he said, I looked at it and I knew what I was looking at. That was a Folsom Point. Glued to just like you got on.
Right.
Okay. I wish I remember where it came from. He told me the whole story. He buys it for next to nothing. Peels that Folsom Point off there. And on it is still the museum coding number.
Oh, wow.
And he found the home for it.
Oh, nice.
Someone just walked away.
Oh,
and he like rolls it over and it's like, I'm making this up, but like A0119 or something.
Oh, wow.
Where they do like white out and then put a thing on there and then like nail polish over it or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's the way it's done. Well,
So it's just like you're saying, like people just walk
well,
off with stuff.
You know, my wife was a curator at the City of Colorado Springs Museum several years ago, and she had a woman come in, and it was with a Van Briggle vase. And Van Briggle was a very well-known early pottery maker in Colorado Springs.
Okay.
So anyway, she brings it in because she wanted my wife to give her some information on it. Well, my wife takes it, looks at the bottom, and there's an accession number on it, and it's from their museum. And my wife says, "This is an accession number." The lady grabbed it out of her hands and ran out of the building.
What?
Yeah, she'd gotten it at like a yard sale or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, they tracked her down, and lawyers were involved. But they got the vase back. But no, it's like the lady. I mean, she did not want to hear this. I mean, because those vases, it was probably like a $30,000 or $40,000 Van Briggle vase.
Wow.
And, but no, she grabbed it and took off. It's like I'm out of here. You know.
The other day, a couple weekends ago, I was at my buddy's wedding down in New Mexico. Jeremy Romero, he's getting married. His wife Shannon. I saw I never clicked her family's names and all that in her background. Like I mostly know him. Anyways, in the whatever the hell the ceremony, they throw a nod to Grandpa Earp. You know, and I said, "Do you mean like the later?" When you're supposed to say congratulations.
Raise your hand.
Later in the evening, when you're supposed to say congratulations, I'm like, does that mean like the Earps? And she didn't know where everybody fit, but like the Earp family.
Suddenly you became very interested.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any objections to this union? Actually, more of a question here.
Yeah, perked up during the ceremony.
Yeah.
So your new book, Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, and A Reckoning in Tombstone. Oh, let me hit you with this one first.
Okay.
Do you feel that what Doc Holliday, that the script was wrong? They screwed the script up in Tombstone. Doc Holliday should have been saying, "I'll be your huckle bearer."
That's a urban legend, Huckleberry.
Oh,
it is. Yeah.
That's why I asked. I didn't say that's what it said.
No.
Randall, check me on this.
Asked and answered.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, but he did it like an accusation.
Oh yeah. I was not implying that you were wrong.
That's not true.
Yeah, no, it's not. No.
What the hell is he talking about?
Well, you can find that. I mean, actually, that came up recently, and I looked through newspapers.com, and like one of the first references is in the 1850s, and it was regarding like so and so. We're gonna, he wants you to be, or have a shooting match, and the guy goes, "Yeah, I'll be your Huckleberry." Like, yeah, I'm.
But
ready.
not Hucklebearer.
No, not Huckle.
Because the urban legend is that they used to use Hucklewood.
You're right.
For the rails.
Yeah.
On a, what do you call it? A grave thing, a box, a casket.
Coffin, yeah.
That a coffin had like handrails, and the handrails they would use like Hucklewood.
Yeah.
Like a Huckleberry.
Well, I don't know.
That doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, I don't even know what a huckle tree looks like. So,
well, if it's a huckleberry tree, it's a mighty thin rail.
Yeah. But no, that's
not true.
That's not true. And I have heard that story about the Huckleberry, but no, Huckleberry. And I don't,
what does it mean? I'll be your Huckleberry.
Well, that means I'm game, but I don't know the origins, why it's associated with the word Huckleberry, but it just, the implication is, oh yeah, I'm game, I'm your man, or whatever. Yeah,
like out like a trout, in like Flynn.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you're looking. There's the idea that you're looking for huckleberries, and hey, you found him. I'm your guy.
And I don't even. I don't even know if the people
just spitballing here.
I don't even know if the people that said it knew where it came from.
Okay.
It's one of those phrases where, oh yeah, I'm your, and the people just started using. Now I don't think it was that common, but. It was at least in the 19th century, it was used. Now, I have never seen Doc Holliday at a contemporary source saying, "I'm your Huckleberry." But Kevin Jarre, the scriptwriter, was a brilliant. I mean, he did research and he really looked at the historical record. And somewhere he came across that phrase, which was brilliant. "I'm your Huckleberry," and Val Kilmer did it exceptionally well.
Yeah.
But one of the neat things about the movie Tombstone is there are lots. I mean, Kevin Jarre found lots of quotes. For instance, "You're a daisy if you have," or "You're a daisy if you." That actually is in the testimony from after the OK Corral gunfight. Kurt Russell says, or one of the Earps says, it's a regular slaughterhouse. Well, that came from the diary of John Parson, who was a miner. I mean, so Jar did his research, and there's lots of phrases, and I have to agree with Kurt Russell, who said before that, the thing that stands out about Tombstone is all the quotes. It's one of the most quotable westerns ever. You know
what? Here's a good. If you're a screenwriter out there listening, or an aspiring screenwriter, there's a lesson to be learned here. People love to quote Full Metal Jacket, Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. Everything memorable that anybody says in Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket is taken verbatim from Michael Hare's book, Dispatches, when he was sent to cover the Vietnam War for Esquire magazine. And instead of going and doing what everybody else did at the time, which is go talk to Westmoreland or like the brass, right, and talk about strategy and body counts and money spent and money wasted, he just went and spent years talking to grunts. And Dispatches is about, he cruised around with Errol Flynn's kid, Sean Flynn, who was a photographer. He just went around Vietnam everywhere and talked to grunts. And so when you read Dispatches, which is his account of his time in Vietnam, Kubrick teamed up with him. All the quotes, how can you shoot the women and children? You don't lead them as much. All that. Oh, God. Well, from the movie.
Right.
Which is from the book.
Yeah.
It's all stuff dudes say to her or Hare, however he says his name. It's all stuff people say to him. And it's all those memorable lines from Full Metal Jacket. So it's an interesting deal that this guy, that like those great quotes, like I'll be your Huckleberry, right? Becomes just, no one knew what the hell that meant.
No.
But it's like, it's because it was a thing.
Yeah. And it's on t-shirts now. You can buy a t-shirt that says, I'm your Huckleberry. But is Michael Hare the one that wrote that there's nothing as vicious as a teenage boy or something like that? Or
he might have.
Yeah. I think that comes from him. Or
the war kind of killed him in a way. He didn't do much. Like, he reached like his zenith. He even explains in the end of Dispatches how hard it was to come home, because he was from Berkeley. And he came home and he talked about people would expect him to condemn everything. But all he could talk about was how beautiful he thought it all was. Like, it messed him up. He never did much anything. He was like the dude that wrote Dispatches. Like the book killed him. It was like Truman Capote, like writing in cold blood kind of killed him. Talk about Wyatt Earp, like as a kid or whatever, like where's a guy like that come from?
So he's born in Illinois, 1848. His father was a Mexican War veteran, very short time, just a few months in the Mexican War. But I mean, it's Midwest farming family. His father, ran a kind of a grocery store in Monmouth, Illinois. Then they moved to Pella, Iowa. I mean, really, there's nothing exceptional about his childhood, and there's very few stories about him. I mean, they talk about schoolyard fights or something, but what's odd about Wyatt Earp is that the only stories that we really detailed stories about his childhood come from him when he's dictating. I mean, you would think somebody in Mom, oh yeah, they lived next to us. The guys that fought at the OK Corral, oh yeah, they were my neighbors, and this is what they did. There's nothing like that either in Illinois or Iowa, and so I just find that kind of odd.
And he wasn't tangled up in the Civil War at all.
No, his brothers were. He had 3 brothers that fought for the North, but he tried to join. It's a famous story. He was like 14 years old, and he runs away from home.
At 14?
Yeah. Well, his brothers were in, and it's like, so different from wars today. Everybody wanted to join. Everybody wanted to go to war. I mean, you wanted to be a hero. You wanted to join, and fight the Rebs, and the other side the same thing. So
I got to hold you up on that for a minute. I'm just curious, not just because I coughed.
Oh, sure.
Is that's like there was an enthusiasm to fight that war?
Oh yeah, I mean, well,
because that war. That was no joke.
No, it was not.
You get involved in that war, you got a very good chance something's going to happen to you.
Part of it is expectation. I mean, you're a young man. You're expected. You're going to go to war. You're going to fight for your country. But also part of it is looked at. I mean, it's the glory. Custer gets knocked for being a glory hunter, but you're not going to advance in the army unless you get glory, unless you have victories. You win at war. So it was expected. And then if you wanted to seek political office later, I mean, look at how many generals advanced into political office after the war. I mean, it would help your career. I mean, Grant becomes president, right? I mean, and so many of them become congressmen and senators. And so it was a whole different mindset in the 19th century. And then everything you read as a kid, well, for instance, Theodore Roosevelt, born in 1859, all through the Civil War, I mean, he's seeing Harper's Weekly and Frank Leslie's, and they've got these giant engravings of these glorious battles, and they're not in color. You know, they're black and white. You don't see the blood. You don't see the drip. You don't see the men beheaded by a cannonball. I mean, it looks so glorious and thrilling, and so there's all this kind of manliness involved. Yeah, let's go off and we're going to fight and we're going to become heroes. And of course, they realize later that it's awful, it's horrible, it's ugly. So no, Wyatt wanted to join, and his brothers, and of course the option for, Wyatt could either join the army or he can stay home and plant in that stupid cornfield that he hated. He didn't want to be a farmer, but that's what his father had him doing. His father told him, hey, this food goes to your brothers in the war. And Wyatt eventually is like, well, I'm going to starve with them because I'm going to go fight the Rebs. And he runs away from home. His father tracks him down. And he's, Wyatt's all excited. He
got grounded.
Essentially. But he sees his father in his hotel, and he thinks his father doesn't see him, and he rushes back home. Well, his father had spotted him, and he almost got a whipping, but his mother saved him. And his father made him promise. It says, you will not join the military without the permission of your mother, and you will tend to the cornfield. And so that was it. And then the family ends up leaving during the war and going to California. And I think the reason was Nicholas Earp, he already had 3 men that had gone to fight. He opposed the war. He was what they call a copperhead. He was a Democrat, but a copperhead. They were opposed to the war because they thought the war was really becoming about slavery and abolition. And
what did he want it to be about?
Well, he thought it was about the Constitution initially. It was supposed to be about the Constitution and keeping the Union together.
Why the term copper?
Well, I don't know where that comes from, actually, copperhead.
So you're like a Democrat, and you don't want to be involved in a war about slavery, but he wasn't. So not an abolitionist.
No. That was they were really opposed to the abolitionist stance because they felt it became a war about abolitionism,
which they didn't care about.
No, and Nicholas Earp, I mean, he had the racist views of the period. He didn't think it was worth fighting to free these people that didn't deserve it. So I think one of the reasons to go to California, he opposed the war, but he's also taking his sons out of harm's way. He's getting, Wyatt wants to join. We're going to go to California. He had younger brothers, Morgan and Warren. And who knows, at this time, it's 1864. They don't know how long this war is going to go. It might go for another 2 or 3 years. And I don't want my sons, in this war that I disagree with. So they go to California. So that was Wyatt's closest encounter with the Civil War was his attempt to join up, but he got caught.
Any of his brothers get killed there?
No. One brother, Jim, was so badly wounded in his arm that his arm was unusable. So he kept his arm, but he just couldn't use it. And Virgil, I don't think he was wounded in the war. And then he had a half brother, Newton, and he survived the war also.
Where did he go from California? Like, how did he get tangled up with hunting buffalo down in Texas? And his whole gang did, like the dudes he became to be associated with did.
Yeah, he met Bat Masterson on the Buffalo Plains. I mean, of course, it's a little murky as to the chronology because he claimed, now, Wyatt's thing was he had a lot in his past that he preferred not get out to the public. I mean, he wanted to tell a story, but
such as what?
Well, so he's a constable in Missouri for just about less than a year, and he loses his wife there. He absconds with tax monies that he had collected that were supposed to go to the county, and gets his family in trouble because his father and uncle had signed his sureties on this bond, $1,000 bond. He ends up getting arrested for stealing a horse in Oklahoma.
Isn't he a pimp for a while too?
Well, that's what I'm getting to. So from that horse theft thing, he escapes from jail. He says at that point, and he never admits to stealing a horse or any of the other things, but he says, then I went to the Buffalo Range and I was able to make $5,000 in hides or whatever. Well, there's an interval in there where he went to Peoria, Illinois, and he's living in the home of a prostitute. There's a prostitute that claims to be his wife. And he's actually running a brothel according to the arrest records. He's arrested as a pimp. And one of his last brothel operation, which I think is kind of hilarious, it was a floating brothel on the river.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Was it to get out of like how you would have to gamble on the river to get out of those state regulations?
I don't know because they still arrested him.
Okay.
But in the book I say it was the true definition of a pleasure boat. But anyway,
good joke.
Yeah. So he got arrested. In fact, one time he got.
So he had a boat.
Yes.
Like what kind? Like a keel boat?
It was
not a keel boat.
I think it was like some kind of a flat boat, or it wasn't an extravagant. It wasn't like
not
a
like
casino.
one of the big paddle wheel.
Yeah, it wasn't. No, it wasn't one of these luxury boats. No, it wasn't like that at all. I think it was a pretty basic boat. But he was arrested more than once, and one time when he was arrested, it was going to charge him like $44. And he didn't have the money, so he chose to be in jail, him and his brother Morgan. So they sat out their time in jail. And then they went back to doing the same thing. That's when they got the boat or whatever.
But I want to narrow in on this boat for a minute.
Okay. All right.
I'm just having a hard time understanding. Why are they running why are they running a cat house on a boat?
Well, I think it's the mobility.
Moving target.
Yeah.
The sheer novelty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I think it's like the idea is, and I'm kind of speculating here. I mean, you could move from place to place or maybe move to a different town, down the river or whatever, and conduct your business.
Got it.
So, but
you know
it
what's funny? We laughed so hard about this years ago is years ago, there's this whole dispute in this town where this town is trying to ban ice fishing. Okay, you remember this?
Yeah.
This town's trying to ban ice fishing. There's like this city councilman who is giving like this speech at the town meeting, and he's talking about, well, if you allow ice fishing, then people are going to have ice shanties.
Okay.
And if you bring in ice shanties, that's prostitution.
Okay. And that killed it, right?
And the guy became like the laughing stock, but it was like, but when you're talking about the boat, I'm just trying to, I don't know, just somehow I thought like, why, like, I don't get like the connection.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just can move around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And who knows? I mean, maybe it was a really inexpensive, rather than have go to some building in town. But like you say, yeah, you're mobile. And maybe you're here one night, and the next night you tell your guys, yeah, we're going to be out here 5 miles or whatever.
Dude, was his wife like? Would you imagine? Was his wife a madam, or was she an actual worker?
Well, so he had 4 wives, or significant. There's only one legal marriage record for his first wife, but the wife he had in Peoria, she apparently was not a madam, but was actually a worker.
Working girl.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now later,
that's a generous spirit.
Yes. Later,
apparently,
this wife, when he was in Wichita, because she came with him, and apparently she was a madam or running a brothel. And it's really sad because these are one-sided affairs. I mean, let's say Doc Holliday's, Big Nose Kate. I mean, a lot of times these prostitutes, they had gamblers as their partners, and it's like, well, you lose a lot of money at the table. Well, you're having your wife, you're taking her money basically, or you're just freeloading off of them and just getting a little protection for them. You're not really doing much work other than protection. So it's uneven, I should say, as those relationships.
A little bit predatory.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but anyway, the way I look at. So Wyatt had these unseemly things about his past, but he was in his early 20s. I mean, I'm a little sympathetic because he grew out of that. He became different. He aspired to something better. And when he ends up in Wichita as a policeman, even though his wife is still a prostitute, they rave about him as a policeman there. And when he's in Dodge City, the same thing. I mean, he's like the best policeman they've ever had. And when he gets to Tombstone, he wants to run for county sheriff. I mean, he's trying to better himself. And one of the things about the American West is that you can leave your past behind. I mean, there's nobody on the internet looking you up, like they do today. I mean, finding your high school yearbook photo or you dressed up in some weird character. I mean, it's that you can escape your past.
Why was he moving from place to place to be like, was he following money? Was he getting recruited? Was he getting in trouble and having to leave? Like, why did he bounce around?
It's a combination of all those things. So he had a good job. He was well respected in Wichita, but he got in a fight there. There was a man that was running against his boss for sheriff. And this man had said some unsavory things about Wyatt's brothers. And so he hauled off and hit him. Well, he got arrested and fined, and he was dismissed from the police force. Almost immediately thereafter, the mayor of Dodge City learns that Wyatt Earp's available, and so he sends him a letter offering him more pay. And the cattle herd trade had shifted west. Have you heard of the deadline? Have you heard of the phrase called the deadline? So
I've dealt with a few deadlines, but not like what you're talking about.
Yeah. So there was a tick-borne disease called Spanish fever.
Okay.
And the Kansas legislature, they had a line.
Not a livestock disease, but a human disease.
No, a livestock disease.
A livestock,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
And they did not want these Texas cattle infecting the herds in the more settled places of Kansas.
Is that the one that they're worried about coming back now?
I don't know. I haven't heard about that. So anyway,
there's Texas fever.
Well, they kept
moving.
moving.
They use that. They spray those nilgai with that automated spray gun to try to get the tick off them.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, it was a tick-borne disease, so they kept moving the line west, and so they had moved the line west of Wichita, and so Dodge City became the headquarters, and it was just perfect timing. He needed a job. But as far as Tombstone, for instance, he had resigned his post in Dodge City. He'd heard about the strikes in Tombstone, and he was going to go there to make money. In fact, he said that he bought a Concord coach, a stagecoach, and he thought they might need a stage line. And so his idea was, I'm going to take this coach. When he got there were already 2 stage lines operating. But he went to Tombstone to make money and actually to put down roots. I mean, he builds a house for his wife at the time. I mean, he buys mining claims. He's first a deputy sheriff there in the county. And then, he's wanting to run for when they create Cochise County. He wants to run for the county sheriff. He really is looking to advance, to better himself. I mean, to really settle down. He's like 33, or no, he's like 30, I can't remember, 33, I think, at that time. And there's opportunity here. And he got there right at the birth. I mean, Tombstone was just starting to boom. And so he did have a real opportunity to make a difference and to be someone. The problem was the cowboys and all the outlawry and the rustling that was going on. And, when a stage was robbed, well, he was on the posse. When somebody was killed or they needed somebody, Wyatt Earp was the one that was, helping out or, representing the law. Or if his brother needed help, he was helping his brother because his brother was a deputy U.S. Marshal and became chief of police in Tombstone. But he was really looking to change and to make himself better. And even the Earp women, several of them had been prostitutes as well. But one of the things about in the Old West, if someone said, Wyatt could say, "This is my wife," you didn't question him. They just called her Mrs. Earp. I mean, there was this stuff didn't follow you. So they really had hopes for a new beginning in Tombstone.
Were his brothers was it always like a family business, or did they not join him until Tombstone?
It wasn't really a family business, but what it was these brothers, I mean, they were a tight-knit brood, and they always tended to come back together. And, for instance, Jim Earp was in Tombstone, but he wasn't involved with Wyatt. He was, a barkeep there at one of the saloons. Virgil Earp, he didn't invest in the gambling concession that Wyatt had at the Oriental. He was the deputy U.S. Marshal and eventually chief of police. So they liked being together, but they weren't really in business together. Now, I think that they might have shared some mining claims that they speculated in. But over and over again, they tend to stay together as a family. And, Morgan comes down from Montana when he learns that Wyatt and the other brothers are in Tombstone and joins them there. And he takes Wyatt's job as a sitting shotgun on a stagecoach after Wyatt becomes the deputy sheriff or whatever. So they just, they navigate together because they're family.
The thing that in reading about this era and different figures that I've written about and that Randall's researched about what you're talking about, you get these guys that are these incredible drifters. Like when we talk about the mountain man era, nowadays someone might think of like a mountain man, like a hermit, lives by himself up in a cabin. Oh, he's a true mountain man, lives up in his cabin, never talks to anybody.
I think that's a History Channel show, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but like the mountain men, like the actual mountain men, would have been some of the most widely traveled people in the country. I mean, crisscrossing the country, right? And you think this is a time when you could be a farmer and spend your whole life in a 20-mile radius, right? In certain areas. Like, it's not easy to get around. These guys get around unbelievably well. Like, if you look at all the, like, how much the Earps move, would that have seemed at that time, would that have seemed weird? That they lived in, you know, I mean, you've lived in 8 states, you've been to the West Coast and back.
No, I don't think so, because in all these boom towns, people are coming from someplace else.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if it's, now, a mining boom town is different than a cattle boom town. So, you know, when gold or silver, Tombstone is a silver place, you know, people are coming all over to thinking they're going to make their riches. And, you know, what's odd is that there was one newspaper account where a guy's writing a letter from Tombstone, and he says, and like at one point there was like 20 men arriving a day early on. And he says, most of the people that arrive here are arriving broke. And he said, that's not really a good idea to come here because there's not that many jobs. As far as, you know, you could, if you're a miner, you could get like, working miner, you get like $4 a day or something like that. But I mean, it wasn't that there were just all kinds of jobs ready to take these people. So you've got a lot of people that are wandering around. They don't have a job. They don't have the money. And then plus everything is super expensive there. It's like double what you can find elsewhere. I mean, like a sack of flour in Tombstone was $6. You could get it in Kansas for less than $3, you know, or a bushel or whatever. Yeah. So, so it's, so the people are coming from all over. You know, for this, and all the talk is about mining. One of the funny stories I came across was, you know, people always talk about these different claims. And anyway, in 1880 it was an election year, and it was Garfield, and I can't remember who he was running against, but somebody mentioned Garfield, and they said, "Oh, where's that claim, and how much does it pay?" You know, they thought it was a mining claim or whatever. And then another thing that it's just really horrible, actually. But the diarist George Parson, we have his diary, which is so great. But he mentions that there was a lightning strike at the lumberyard in Tombstone, and it killed a man. And he says, you know, some of the people are talking about maybe it struck there because there was a large load of metal in that spot.
Oh, you're kidding
Yeah,
me.
they weren't talking about the guy that was killed at all. It's like, I wonder if
someone needs to dig a hole down
I
there
wonder
and
if
find
there's some silver there. It's like, oh yeah, who was that guy that was, you know, they didn't even care about him. So, yeah.
Walk us through Doc Holliday. Like, people kind of carry it in their head that these guys are buddies, became buddies, but totally different upbringings.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Doc had a little more advanced education than Wyatt did, and you can tell that, you know, if you look at the few letters that we have of Wyatt, he wasn't the best speller or calligrapher, but I mean, he had an education. We have no letters actually from Doc, and we know that he was a big letter writer. He had a cousin that he was, some people think he had an affair with. We're not really sure, but he wrote her constantly, and I guess she burned all her letters after Doc.
Really?
Yeah,
they definitely had an affair.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Why did she have burned the letters?
She didn't want anybody to see. I mean, you know, she burned all of them. So, which is, I mean, we would have had so much information. But according to, there's a family story that they saw these letters, and they said Doc was talking about his experiences in the West and talking about what he was doing and what he was seeing, and we would have had so much more information. But to get back to your question. He
was a doc.
He was a doc. He was a dentist. He actually went to the most prestigious dental school in the country at that time was in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Dental School, and he got a degree. He went there in 1870. He got his dental degree. One of the few photographs we have of him was taken in Philadelphia. And we think it was like a graduation photo or whatever, and it has his signature on the back, and it says, you know, J.H. Holliday, D.D. or whatever. But anyway, so he also comes down with tuberculosis. His mother had tuberculosis, and there's speculation that, well, you know, he probably got it from her. In the 19th century, people didn't know it was contagious. So, you know, today, if somebody, I got TB and you're coughing all over the place, it's like,
that's what I got right now.
Oh, do you? So, I hope you're taking some penicillin. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, you would, I mean, people didn't know that. Because
they call it consumption, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Or they called him a lunger. What is it in the movie Tombstone?
Yep.
Yeah. Johnny Ringo calls him a lunger or whatever. So anyway, there's a couple of theories as to why he goes out west. And One of them is that they encourage him to go west because of his health, to go out to a different climate. It's odd because he goes to Texas, which is Dallas, which is not that much different from where he is as far as humidity and all that stuff. But
that comes up, though.
Yes.
That comes up. Like the historian Francis Parkman, who wrote sort of like at the time a definitive history of the French and Indian War.
Mm-hmm.
He gets advised by his doctor, you need to go out west for your health.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes out and starts hanging out in the Dakotas. Probably probably is in the same camp, in the Guala Sioux camp, probably in the same camp with Crazy Horse, when Crazy Horse is like 13 years old. And he's out there on his like doctor's recommendation.
Yeah, it was called the Prairie Cure. Yeah. They believed, now
is that right? Really?
Yeah, it was called the Prairie Cure. And
you see reference to it so much.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to get away from the miasmas.
Yeah.
The bad air of the
Well,
east.
and there's some amazing survival stories. I mean, Josiah Gregg, who wrote a book called Commerce of the Prairies, he was advised to go out west. This is in the 1830s, and along the Santa Fe Trail. He started his journey as an invalid. He could not walk. Within a few weeks, he's up and walking. He's eating buffalo meat, and he's like he fully recovered.
What was his affliction?
We don't know. I mean, we don't know. But he was so bad off that he couldn't even walk. I mean,
I wonder if he just had celiacs.
Well,
do you know what I'm saying?
No.
Well, think it through. He's a celiac.
Okay.
And all of a sudden now he's out there eating nothing but meat.
Thought you didn't believe in celiac.
It's like totally no. I believe in that.
I don't believe in trendy.
I don't believe in gluten intolerance.
Okay, gotcha.
But what a lot
I believe in it as a partisan disease.
Right.
It's a political disease.
Well, I'm
totally joking.
Okay. Well, what some historians think.
I told you it was refuted.
Oh, okay.
I used to feel.
Okay. All right.
I said something incendiary. I got to clean it up. I used to feel that it was that just with all due respect to everyone out there.
Plenty of celiac. Far.
No, I'm a believer.
No.
Okay.
I came up with this theory based on just nothing. That gluten intolerance was a left-wing affliction. Okay. I was like, why? How could there be? So I questioned its legitimacy. Like, how could there be a health problem that seems to mostly strike people of a politically left persuasion? But then my buddy Spencer, our colleague, came to me with a quiz, and it's like breaks down different belief systems into like right-leaning, left-leaning. Okay.
Ghosts.
He's like, ghosts. And I'm like, definitely left-wing. He's like, no. If you're right-wing, you're more inclined to believe. So anyways, once he walked me through, they didn't do the gluten intolerance, but like the one thing you can say is right-wing people like a rare steak more than left-wing people, but you can't say that they get more gluten intolerance. I don't even know where you sit politically.
Well,
you don't need to tell me. But I just wanted to clear that up because I don't want to rehash. I don't want to open old wounds.
Well, I'm glad you did a statistical study.
Well, that's the problem. I did. But my friend did.
Okay.
And it caused you to rethink.
And he challenged a lot of my assumptions, and then my theory fell apart, as many theories do. That's all. The Prairie Cure.
Yes. So
we don't know what Josiah Gregg.
No, we don't.
What his affliction was, but I believe it was celiacs.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, it could very well be. I mean, I can't say either way, but a lot of historians think that that people that were ill that went west may not really have had tuberculosis to begin with. It might have been something else, and also tuberculosis can go into remission as well. So. But you're right though. I mean, doctors were constantly referring, go west or whatever. And
so in like medical hindsight, is it that wasn't that wasn't a way to cure that wasn't actually helpful if you had TB?
Well, it might have been helpful just because you're getting away from this. I mean, the West is arid, so you have dry air. You're getting away from this humid. You're getting away from all the coal smoke and. That certainly isn't going to make your TB any better. Okay. So I think it was helpful, and you had all kinds of sanitariums popping up in the late 19th century, early 20th century. Colorado Springs was a huge place for sanitariums, and they had little huts, and you're supposed to get out in the sun, which is helpful. Getting sunlight.
What's a sanitarium?
Oh, it's a huge complex for treating patients with tuberculosis with like dozens and dozens, hundreds of individual huts.
What?
And, and you would go.
I
there
would
and
have
get
thought
treated.
you meant like a insane asylum, a sanitarium.
Yeah, sanitarium. Yeah.
Did you know this, Randall?
Yeah.
They covered that in the doctorate.
I mean, that's where he ended up in Glenwood Springs.
I believe,
right?
Chico Hot Springs used to be a sanitarium.
Oh man,
always springs. They're always hot springs.
I'm glad I know this because I would have raised my hand like in trivia. I would have been like, "Insane asylum."
But you get
insane asylum. Is what that is.
Was Doc Holliday already like before he left the East to go West? Was he already like a ne'er-do-well gambler and drinker and all that?
Well, there's some authors have written that he had kind of learned to play cards while he was in Georgia. Before going west. But here's the other story that's more unseemly about Doc Holliday that counters the tuberculosis story. There was this fishing hole along the river where he
This
lived.
is a euphemism?
No, it's a real... No, I'm sorry, it's a swimming hole. Sorry, a swimming hole. Anyway, it was enjoyed by both black swimmers and white swimmers.
Oh, I've heard this.
Yes, and so the white swimmers, including Doc Holliday, did not want the black swimmers in their swimming hole. And they threatened him and said, "You're going to have to go someplace else." Well, the black young men said, "We're not going someplace else. You can go someplace else." Well, a few days later, Doc Holliday shows up with a double-barrel shotgun, and he yells at them all to get out. And then as they're clambering out of the swimming hole, he unloads both barrels and apparently kills two of these young men. Yeah.
Doc Holliday.
Yes. And the story
Val
is...
Kilmer.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Dennis Quaid. So the story is that the family, I mean, apparently it wasn't a horrible, thing to kill black men in Georgia right after the Civil War. But they suggested, maybe you need to leave for a while until things settle down or whatever. The family does have stories of this incident, but they say Doc Holliday fired over the heads of the swimmers. I can tell you that there are no legal documents known or newspaper reports that mention this episode at all.
Does it seem like a thing that would have been reported on?
It seems like if two men were killed, whether black or white, I think it would have been reported. But it's a very strong story in the lore. And when Doc Holliday died in Glenwood Springs, his obituary in a Montana paper mentions that episode, says he had killed a couple of black men or one black man in Georgia. So that story, how I said you can escape your past, that story stuck around. People knew that story.
Got it.
I would just love to, it would make me feel better if I found an actual document from the time or a newspaper report saying that these men had been killed or whatever. But it's also believable. I mean, I can't say it didn't happen. It's believable.
So when he leaves Georgia, and whether it's because he's got consumption, whether because he's worried about getting arrested, he leaves dentistry.
No, he sets up he has a partner in Dallas, Texas, and they have a dental. He has a partner. His name is Seeger. And this is the cool thing. I mean, there's a local fair, the Texas Industrial Association. They get a prize for like the best false teeth. So Doc Holliday is an award-winning dentist. He not only has a dental degree, but now he's an award-winning dentist, and he's in his early 20s. But Dallas is also where he takes a different path. He diverges. He later, in talking to a newspaper reporter, he said, I was part of the Methodist Church. He was even part of this, group of, you wouldn't call it AAA, but it was, a temperance organization. And but then he says that I swayed, and something from rectitude or whatever. And so, he started gambling. Bat Masterson says, gambling was rampant in Dallas. And he says that was the one way to sure make money in Dallas because of all the places where you could gamble. We know that Doc was arrested there for gambling in Dallas. And apparently, Doc's life as a gambler, well, in fact, Bat Masterson says the only way to get an appointment was to sit across from him at a poker table, So I guess his partner got fed up and they separated. And only a few more times do we know that Doc Holliday does practice dentistry, or at least appear to. He apparently set out in Denton, Texas. He set out a sign, dentistry. And in Dodge City, when he arrives there, he puts an ad in the paper. And so we have those newspapers.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, it says, John H. Holliday, dentist. But after that, we have no record that he actually practiced as a dentist. For instance, he was in Prescott, Arizona for a while. He was gambling. He was definitely not practicing dentistry in Tombstone. He was a full-time gambler. But the funny thing is, in the 1880 census for Arizona, his occupation is listed as dentist. But he wasn't doing, it's kind of like, this is the other weird thing, the Earp brothers in the same census, they're listed as farmers. They weren't farming. Wyatt hated farming, but I guess you tell the census taker, what's your occupation? Oh, I'm farmer. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I just thought that census taker had to chuckle when Doc said, yeah, put me down as dentist, because he was not doing dentistry in Prescott, Arizona.
Got it. If a guy like Doc Holliday filled out like his tax forms at the end of a year of gambling, like he's showing like a gain.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like when you read all these guys, like he was a gambler, professional gambler. What's that look like economically? There's no house, right?
Oh no,
you're playing at a table just like anybody.
Yeah. Well,
there's guys that are legitimately supporting themselves, or is it that you're doing other nefarious stuff, but you're mostly spending your time playing cards, but your income is from prostitution or whatever the hell you got going on?
Well, sometimes you're actually just being paid as a dealer in a gambling establishment, and you're not necessarily taking part of the winnings, or you get a concession. You can run this faro table, and you'll give so much to the guy that owns the place, and then you keep so much.
Got it.
But the thing is,
so it's not like that you need to win more than you lose. There's other ways to turn a profit.
Yes.
There's other ways to turn a living as a gambler.
Yes, but I mean, Doc, his income had to be so erratic. He definitely had highs and lows, and the last few years were definitely lows. I mean, he's bouncing around from one place to the other and has no money. This incident, well, here's an example. In Leadville, he borrowed like $5 from this guy, and he wasn't paying it back, and the guy kept harassing him. It's just $5. It's not the end of the world or whatever. But Doc doesn't have the money, and he ends up pawning a bunch of stuff. When he dies in Glenwood Springs, he has hardly anything. He had a few possessions that were sent back to his family. There were no guns that were sent back, so he probably sold those long before. There was a stick pin, a gold stick pin that had a diamond in it. The diamond was gone, so he probably had hawked that and sold it. I mean,
why the hell did he?
It was sad.
But I was like, why did he get out of? Why not just be a dentist?
Well, I guess he didn't like it. Gambling. He was a gambling addict. He was addicted to it. He had to gamble.
Was he a drunk too?
He was often drunk. Yes. And if you want to be sympathetic to Doc, you can say he was self-medicating. But he had tuberculosis, so there's laudanum. Any kind of tonic that you took had all kinds of alcohol in it. So, but the problem with the drinking was that he was what they would call a mean drunk. He was not a good person, and he was quick to get angry and get into fights. And as Wyatt Earp said, Doc was his own worst enemy. And that was one of the things that kind of this bond that they had. Wyatt and the brothers kind of took care of Doc when he got out of control. There's an account when they were in Gunnison, Colorado, and the guy remembered all of them. And he said, oh yeah, when Doc started to get out of control, they kind of took him aside and took him away. They kind of looked after him. And once they separated, and he didn't have that family really to his other brothers. They were kind of like siblings in a way. Doc was 3 years younger than Wyatt, but anyway, yeah, it was really, for Doc at the end, it was very sad. But people that wrote about him said he was always a meticulous dresser, and he didn't dress over the top or what, but he's just meticulous. Even in Tombstone, Big Nose Kate says when he went out that day that ended up in the OK Corral, it's like yeah, he'll be able to see me once I'm dressed or whatever. And so he got all dressed. He had a cane. He had an overcoat, and it was very sharp. It took real pride in his appearance.
If you were hanging out with Big Nose Kate, would you say, "Excuse me, Big Nose Kate"?
Well, I don't think she liked that at all. Yeah, well, and that's a name. This is what's so interesting. That name comes from one person, Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp said she was.
Oh, he's a bully too.
Yeah, Big Nose Kate. And
he coined the term.
Well, he's the only reference that we have. We don't see Big Nose Kate in contemporary newspapers, but his account that he left, he calls her Big Nose Kate. And she left her own account. She never refers, to that, of course. Now, here's an interesting theory behind that name, though. A buddy of mine, Ron Hansen.
She's Hungarian, right?
Yes, she is. Yeah, my buddy of mine, Ron Hansen, who wrote The Assassination of Jesse James.
Dude, that is an unbelievable book.
It's a great book.
Your buddies with him?
Yeah, he's a friend of mine. And he wrote a blurb that's on the back of that book.
Oh.
But anyway, Ron had a great theory, and I included it in my book. He says, I always wondered about that name, and I think I know where it came from. He thinks that it's a corruption of the term for brothel, the Italian term bagno, because a bagno was a brothel. He thinks they called her Bagno Kate, and it got corrupted into Big Nose just to kind of irk her. That's his theory, So
well, I mean, I don't want. I mean, I don't want to be rude to her, but I mean, you've seen pictures of her.
Yes, yeah. But that's
it's not like
that's in later life. Yeah. That's in later life.
You know what's terrible? When I was in high school, we had a friend. Her name was Michelle. Mm-hmm. She had a hook nose. Everybody called her Hook. She called herself Hook, and her boyfriend called her Hook. Mm. I don't know what they call her nowadays.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not that.
Yeah, she would even say.
Oh, wow.
She said, tell her Hook called.
Well, she was a perpetual, I say in the book, a perpetual Earp hater. And that tells me how...
Big Nose Kate hated the Earps.
Oh, yeah, she hated it. But it tells me how close that bond was between Wyatt and Doc, because she was so jealous of that relationship. And she just hated, she seethed against Wyatt. She thought Wyatt was the one that caused all their problems between her and Doc. Wyatt just said, well, they were always a quarrelsome couple. That was all he had to say about it. But
was she a big boozer too?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I haven't seen any references to her being a drinker. And she, in her own account, she claimed that, Doc had a whiskey bottle with him, but he never really drank. Well, I mean, everybody else says he drank, all the time, and he was often drunk. She was very kind in her recollections of Doc. But no, she hated the Earps. She thought that was the end of their relationship. She thought that's how everything went wrong, and they turned Doc wrong. And she actually, she was so mad at Doc, and they would often have these big, horrible fights. And she went to the sheriff, Johnny Bean, and implicated Doc in the Benson stage robbery. She said, oh, yeah.
Her boyfriend.
Yeah, her boyfriend. And then she later said, this was my way of getting him away from the Earps. Well, he could have been hung, because there was was a guy killed. No, 2 people killed in that robbery. So she was that angry with him that she implicated him. And then, of course, the prosecuting attorney, once he heard the story and there was no evidence, he said he just asked the judge to dismiss the case. He said there's no evidence whatsoever that what she's saying is true. There's nothing to back that up. But no, she did. She turned her lover in and tried to get him arrested. Well, he did get arrested, but it didn't go to trial.
All right, set up how it comes that, like, rather like the way you talk about these guys, rather than being like there's like super slick, virtuous, right, white-hatted Western heroes. They're kind of just like drifters make and do.
Well, in a way,
little gambling, little drinking.
Yeah, in a way, I think Wyatt is a little more than that.
Okay.
The fact that Wyatt builds a house in Tombstone tells me something that he's aspiring to more. Doc Holliday, throughout his life, never bought a house. He was always rooming somewhere. In fact, in Tombstone, he was at a boarding house, the Fly boarding house, which is right next to where
what was it called?
Flies, Fly. Their last name was Fly. C.S. Fly was a famous photographer, and he had a photo studio behind the boarding house. And anyway, so Doc had a room there, and that's where Kate stayed when she would come to visit him. They'd have these fights, and they would separate, and then Kate said that she would get a letter from Doc and say, hey, would you come? I'd like to see you again. And she came back like 3 different times. She came back to see him. There was this off and on again relationship, but she couldn't stand the Earps, so I think that she couldn't stand to be in Tombstone for very long.
How did Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp, how did it all start? Was Doc Holliday just gambling out his establishment at Wyatt Earp's establishment, and they got to know each other that way, or
So that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it, and that's one of the reasons for the book was that when we see the movies, they tell us that they're friends, but nobody knows how they became friends. They don't even cover that. It's like it's just accepted.
Yeah.
So what happened is that Doc and Wyatt had first met about 1877 in Fort Griffin, Texas. And Wyatt was down there. He was being employed by the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad to track down a couple of these men had been robbing the railroad camps, and he was employed to track them down. And when he got to Fort Griffin, the owner of this saloon gambling establishment, Wyatt asked him, he says, hey, I'm looking for these guys. And he says, well, if anybody would know, it'd be Doc Holliday. Do you know him? And Wyatt didn't know him. And so they introduced each other. And Wyatt talked about this a lot. He says, at the time, I wasn't looking for a friend. I was looking for information about, where these guys might be. And Doc said, well, let me ask around and I'll see what I can do. And I guess Doc gave him a few leads that didn't pan out. But Doc had also pumped Wyatt about Dodge City, because Doc was kind of looking for, someplace else where it might be a good place to land. And he was with Big Nose Kate at that time. And so Doc ends up in Dodge City. And you remember I said he placed that ad for a dentist office. But one night, and this was happening almost constantly, cowboys are being rowdy, wanting to shoot up the town. And there was a big gang of cowboys starting to shoot off their guns. And then they see Wyatt Earp on the street near the Long Branch Saloon by himself. And they quickly surround him, and they got their guns, and they're saying, "We're going to get you now."
For what?
They just didn't like him. He was the law,
okay.
And they were drunk. And so we're gonna get you. And Wyatt dearly, he thought he was going to be killed. He thought that was going to be it. Well, inside the Long Branch, they had glass windows, and Doc Holliday's back
swinging
there.
doors.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't know. I doubt it. But anyway, he sees through the window what's going on. And the guy, the dealer, he says, do you have a gun? And the guy says, yeah. So Doc gets it. Doc has his own gun. He comes out the door with both guns.
His gun and a borrowed gun.
His gun and a borrowed gun. He says, hold up your hands. And, of course, the cowboys are all startled, and they do. And then Wyatt goes for his guns, and they march him off to jail and lock him up. So Wyatt said this more than once. And he said, from that day forward, I was Doc Holliday's friend. We were friends. He considered his life saved, and he thought he was indebted. He really thought his life was in danger, and he says we were friends. And so no matter the crazy stuff Doc did, Wyatt stuck with him. And the cowboys in Tombstone, they even tried to use Doc against him by putting these, claiming he was a stage robber and he was a bad character, because everybody in town knew they were friends. So by association, if they make Doc look bad, well, we're not going to elect Wyatt Earp. He's a friend of this crazy, thief, Doc Holliday. But that really says something to me about Wyatt Earp, that he, had that bond. It's like, you saved my life. We're friends, Doesn't matter what you do, what happens, we're friends.
Got it.
And that's the way it was until, they separate eventually after the Vendetta ride. And Doc, they do see each other one last time in Denver. And I actually found the notice, often when people checked into a hotel, the paper would say, who's staying? You could go through the list, and Wyatt Earp, Trinidad, is staying at the hotel here. That was news. And Doc Holliday read that, and he went down to meet him at the hotel. And Josephine Earp, Wyatt's last wife, wrote an account, and she said that they were just amazed. Doc looked horrible. He was all thin, like an old man. But, Wyatt just had this. So, yeah. Yes. I don't think like that. But anyway, I know. Is Steve your friend, or?
For the listeners,
I ask myself that every day.
Brody.
Yeah. But anyway, they embrace, and they go to a table to the side, and they're chatting. And then they stand up later, a few minutes later, however long it took, and they shake hands. And she actually tells what Wyatt said, and Doc said something like, "Who would have imagined, that I would be the first to go, or whatever, between us." And anyway,
he's prophesizing his death.
Yes, he is. And Wyatt Earp comes back to the table, and there's tears in his eyes.
Huh.
There is no other account of Wyatt Earp crying. I guarantee you're ever going to see that. But he's in tears, after his friend parts, and he just knows he's not going to ever see him again.
Huh. Yeah. So explain the mashup that occurs around the OK Corral. Mm-hmm. I've read accounts of this. I still cannot explain or understand who's mad at who. Okay. Is there an efficient way of explaining?
Well, I'll try to make it brief.
It is the most Byzantine
a lot of it has
like he's mad about this and mad about that and was hired by him. It's not like.
Well, there's lots of undercurrents. I mean, the Earp brothers, they were on the side of law and order.
Okay.
And Wyatt Earp had made this deal, and it was not a good idea. You know, it was a form of gambling essentially. But the stage had been robbed. The Benson stage had been robbed, and 2 people had been killed: the driver and a passenger.
Okay.
So
we're now on the outskirts of Tombstone.
Yes, so the stagecoach was robbed and everything.
And this is like a scheduled piece of transportation into Tombstone.
Well, going out of Tombstone.
Okay, and it's robbed of what?
Well, it wasn't robbed because it went bad. Okay. So the guy that was the guy riding shotgun, you know, when the robbers say hold, he goes, "I hold for nobody," and they start blasting away, and the driver's killed instantly. He falls down between the lines, so we got a runaway coach. They shoot at the coach as it's going away. They kill a passenger on top. A mile or 2 or several miles later, they finally get the coach stopped. So they know who the robbers were. They were 3 men. And there was a big hunt for them. Doc Holliday started initially, but Wyatt's involved, Virgil Earp's involved, Johnny Behan's involved. And they go out for miles and days.
I got a quick question.
Okay.
Because this is where I start getting confused.
Oh.
How in the world is it Doc Holliday's business?
Because Doc Holliday, this is something that Virgil Earp said, whenever there was a posse formed, Doc Holliday was always there to help out. It's like, yeah.
So he's like, I'm sick, I'm half dead, I'm drunk.
Yeah.
I'd love to throw in.
Yeah, no, he does.
It's a fun time.
When he's needed. Well, plus his buddies are there. You know, well, there's Wyatt, there's Morgan. He's the same age as Morgan.
So he just gets excited when there's a posse.
It's like your buddy drew a tag, you know?
Yeah, maybe. Well, I think he also thought it was the right thing to do, and they needed help, you know. So
I got you. So he's one of the guys that likes to be in the posse.
Yes, exactly. So, but he wasn't on that posse for very long. But regardless, so they know who the robbers are because they catch one of them. And now I think I mentioned that Wyatt, he is eager to become the Cochise County Sheriff.
Okay.
He thinks if I catch these robbers, that's going to add a lot of credence to me. You know, I'm going to be a hero. So he approaches, this is the bad idea, he approaches one of the cowboys, Ike Clanton, who's in cahoots with he knows everybody, he's in cahoots with them. He's considered a leader of the cowboys, actually. And he says a proposition. He says, Wells Fargo's offering $5,000 for the capture of these guys. If you help me capture them, I'll give you the $5,000. All I want is the glory. So just lead them to some place where we can get. So Ike agrees. He's going to turn in, these people that he knows for the $5,000. Well, later it gets a little complicated, but
yes.
But Ike fears. He fears that Wyatt didn't keep his secret. Because Ike said, I want to find out if that reward is good, dead or alive. And so Wyatt finds out. He goes to the Wells Fargo office. They telegraph it, and it's good, dead or alive. But he doesn't tell the Wells Fargo man what's going on. But he reads the telegram, and so he just kind of assumes that Ike is doing something with Wyatt, and he approaches Ike. Is you're going to go get those guys?
I just got too confused.
Okay.
I have to trust other people.
Sure.
Are you confused?
I'm waiting to hear
Ike's
more.
Ike's gang is like making sure he's not screwing him over.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So, but who sent the telegram?
Wyatt sent the telegram to the Wells
So
Fargo
Ike
office.
says, the inside man.
Yes.
He goes, hey, I get $5,000 dead or alive?
Yes. And so they send the
Wyatt's
telegram.
like, let me check.
Yes.
Wyatt telegrams the bank.
Yes. San Francisco.
What's now the bank, Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
They say, no problem, dead's fine.
Yeah.
But then what?
Well, because
I don't understand.
Well, the Wells Fargo man sees the telegram
from Wyatt
and back, and so he makes the connection. He saw Wyatt and Ike talking together, so he makes the connection that Ike is working with Wyatt, and he mentions it to Ike. And Ike starts freaking out because...
So he goes, I understand you're working with Wyatt Earp to catch the bad guys.
Caught as a rat.
Yes, exactly, because Ike is fearing for his death because this happened to men of the Cowboys who got caught or spilled the beans. They disappeared.
Yeah.
And so Ike is terrified. And so he goes and gets mad at Wyatt. Then he accuses Doc of telling people. And he just goes into this rampage, and he's just angry. and you guys lie. I mean, you weren't supposed to tell about this.
Yeah.
And then he gets drunk and he keeps ranting and raving all night long. And he says, and then the next day, and I'm skipping over a lot of stuff, but it's mostly Ike is the problem here. The next day, he's saying, he's telling people, as soon as those Earp brothers get up, I'm going to get him, or I'm going to get Doc Holliday.
Can I interrupt you? The Cowboys are Ike's gang, right?
Yes.
It's like a loose.
Yes, it's a loose amalgamation, and some people look at Ike as a leader or there wasn't just one leader, but as one of the leading men. But yeah, the Cowboys are all, and not all the Cowboys were stage robbers. Mostly they were just rustlers.
Yeah.
Are they like a mafia style?
Yeah,
affiliation?
in a way. I mean, you got certain ranchers that are fencing the cattle for the rustlers. They're actually going over the border to Mexico, which is just a day's ride away, and stealing cattle. And there's butchers and others that they just wink and they buy the cattle. And that's why so many people and merchants in Tombstone tended to let things with the Cowboys go because they were making money off of them.
Okay.
And the Earps were kind of the monkey wrench in this whole, they were putting a stop to those kinds of things. So anyway, Ike is on a ranch.
You're doing doing a phenomenal job.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
this is the first time in my life I've ever understood this.
Oh, well, good. Yeah. Well, I prefer you read the book, but
well, no, I will.
Okay.
That's why I've never understood this.
Okay. Well, Ike's on a rampage. He's drunk. He's making all kinds of threats. And these are on top of threats that other cowboys had made in the past. They just don't like the Earps. So the McClary brothers, they had threatened him in the past. So Doc Holliday arrives in town. He'd been in Tucson. And Ike gets in an argument with him, and they're threatening each other.
And what are they arguing about?
Well, because Ike believes that Doc is in on it too. That Doc has been spreading the word about this.
Okay, because he's buddies with the Earps.
He's buddy with the Earps, and Wyatt's
so these guys are they're drunk.
They're drunk.
They're accusing each other of stuff.
And Wyatt had Doc come in to explain because Wyatt tells Ike, "I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything to Doc. And when Doc gets here, he'll be able to tell you." Well, Doc, he gets angry quickly anyway, and so it's just mostly just kind of this shouting match between the two of them. But the next morning, okay, so Ike's going around.
I think that if someone had said, let's all get together and talk this through.
Maybe.
Let's just go forward with the $5,000 plan that we had lined out.
Well, and speaking of lines from the movie Tombstone, this is where it comes from. So the night before the OK Corral, Doc is confronting Ike, and Ike says, "I'm not healed," and Doc says, "Well, go get healed, I'll meet you." I mean, that's that kind of threats that are going on.
Like, I don't have my gun.
I don't have my gun. I'm not healed, I don't have my gun. And Doc says, "Go get your gun." And so Ike spends all night up, and he's gambling, and he's drinking, he's not shaving, he's pretty disheveled, I'm thinking. And the next morning, Virgil, you have to remember, people that spend the night as gamblers, they go to bed late and they sleep late. So all these guys that are involved, like the Earps, they're getting up like at noon or what. I mean, that's the normal day for them. They're sleeping till noon. So people are waking up Virgil and Wyatt and saying, "Ike's going around here and he's threatening to kill you guys as soon as he sees you." And Wyatt's saying, "Okay, I'm going to sleep a little longer." And then they weren't too worried. Virgil's the same way. He says,
you're saying the Western trope of showing a showdown at high noon is largely derivative of their sleeping habits.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah.
I dated a girl for a while. She was a flight attendant and a gambling addict.
Oh.
Very erratic sleep hours.
Oh,
because you got a double whammy there.
Yeah. So anyway, finally they get up, and Virgil, he says, "Okay, I'm going to go take care of Ike." And he finds him.
Like, take care of him in what way?
Well, and arrest him, and take his gun away because he's armed. You're not supposed to carry guns.
So he's like Ike's wandering around town, hungover, drunk,
threatening people, shouting, and he sneaks up behind him and clobbers him over the head. Takes his gun. I mean, it was a serious blow because he had to go to the doctor and get bandaged. But then there's
like a comic quality to all this.
There is. So
I'm not making fun of the book. I'm saying it's like up until the shooting, there's like a comic quality to it.
Because I mean it's crazy. But they take him to the court in Tombstone, and so Ike is there and Wyatt's in there, and he's going to get fined, of course. But that's where Ike says, he starts yelling at Wyatt. He says, "All I want is 4 feet of ground, and you took my guns away. Give me my guns, and there'll be a reason for a coroner's inquest." I mean, he just goes on and on, hammering.
What's 4 feet of ground mean?
Distance. All I want is 4 feet of ground between us to shoot you. He wants to have a gunfight, right? All I want is give me 4 feet of ground, you know. And
Wyatt didn't have to say, like, what does that mean?
No, he knew exactly. Yeah. And so anyway, then the McClary brothers arrive, or one of the brothers arrives in town. And after this incident with Ike, the McClarys had also been making threats. And Wyatt comes up to Tom McClary, who's outside, and Tom McClary says something like, well, if you want to fight, I'll fight you right now. Well, Wyatt gets his revolver and hammers him over the head. Took the fight right out of Tom McClary. But then when Frank McClary gets to town, it's like, why did Wyatt hit my brother? You know, and so now the McClarys, who are friends with the Clantons, they're all mad at the Earps, and they're continuing to make threats. And then so this is what's amazing. So, Virgil and Wyatt and Morgan, they're kind of wandering around the streets. There's a lot of people on the streets, and people keep coming up to Virgil, says, there's these guys that are going to kill you. They're threatening you or whatever. And it's like he knows who it is, but over and over. And then there's other men that come up and say, there's like this vigilante group or Minutemen, and it says, hey, I can get so many men together if you want help or whatever. Virgil's, no, I don't want any help.
Like, we'll get guys to help you beat up the drunks.
Yes, exactly, to arrest
the
them.
other drunks.
Yes, and Virgil says, no, I can take care of it. And finally, Virgil just gets so much of this. And even Johnny Bean, who's the sheriff, the county sheriff, Virgil says, well, can you go and disarm him or whatever? And Johnny Bean, I don't really want to do that, And so finally Virgil is fed up, and after the last time somebody says these guys are down there by Fly's boarding house, which is where Doc is staying, and which, that's kind of interesting. They're threatening Doc, and here they are at this right next to where Doc lives. And so Virgil's had enough, and he says, those guys are carrying guns in town against the law. That's insult to me. It's disrespecting me in my office. That's disrespecting the laws. And I'm going to go disarm him. And so he gets Wyatt, he gets Morgan, who are all there. And then Doc Holliday, you're not going to leave me out, are you? And Wyatt goes, well, he says, it's going to be a hard fight. And Doc says, that's the kind I like. And so he's deputized.
Is that a paid gig?
What's that? No.
Like when Doc Holliday joins a posse or Doc Holliday does this, there's no financial.
No, usually not. Sometimes Wells Fargo would reimburse them, kind of like a per diem, or, if they, food. I mean, sometimes they would give them money for the time they spent going after these individuals. And that was also another kind of sore point between the Earp brothers and Johnny Bean. Johnny Bean, who was the county sheriff, who was leading that posse after the stage robbers we talked about. He paid himself and his men, but he didn't pay the Earps. And the Earps, well, what about, we were riding with you, whatever. And finally, Wells Fargo, I guess, coughed up some money for him. But anyway, Virgil Earp decides, I'm going to go down there. I hear they're down here by, Fly's boarding house. So we got Wyatt, we got Virgil, we got Morgan, we got Doc Holliday.
And Virgil has the authority to do that because he's a U.S. Marshal?
Well, it's mostly because at that time, he's also the chief of police of Tombstone. Okay. So he's both chief of police and a deputy U.S. Marshal. So he's in charge of enforcing Tombstone's laws. Yeah. And he's just sick of these threats. I mean, after a while, it's like, you can keep saying, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. And, pretty soon you're kind of done with that, right? Because the guy might kill you. You don't know when the threat ends and when it becomes real. But mainly they're breaking the law, so I'm going to disarm him. So they round the corner and they see the Clantons and they see the McClarys up there and they see the horses. There's a couple of horses and they see Johnny Bean. And Johnny Bean's been talking to him. And Johnny Bean starts rushing towards Earps and Holliday, and he keeps looking back over his shoulder. He's scared, and
he's gonna get shot in the back.
Well, not that he gets shot in the back. He's scared of what's going to happen.
Okay.
And he says, Virgil, don't go down there. They're gonna, there's going to be a battle. There's going to be war. Don't go down there. And Virgil says, I'm going to disarm him. And then Johnny Bean lies. He says, I've already disarmed him. Well, he had not disarmed him. And really, all Johnny Bean had to say, if he wanted to prevent this, he could have said, they're leaving town. Because if you're leaving town, you can have your guns. He doesn't say that. In fact, he asked them to leave town, but they said, "No, we're going to hang around a little bit longer." So anyway, he lies to him. He's trying to get, I've already disarmed him. And so this kind of breathes a little air of relief into Earps and Doc Holliday. Oh, okay. They put their guns away,
they believe him.
Oh, yeah, they believe him. Yeah, because but Virgil's still going down there, but he had his revolver in his waistband at the front where he could grab it easily. So he pushes it back around, or whichever side it was, and he has this cane that was Doc Holliday's cane he was carrying. And then he had given his shotgun to Doc Holliday, who was supposed to hide it under his long coat, which he did. But they're not pulling out their guns. And like I said, Wyatt he carried his gun in a coat pocket. which is an aside, is a very odd. All the movies are wearing gun leather, right?
Yeah.
But not at the OK Corral. Wyatt had his in a pocket. Doc Holliday had a revolver in his pocket, and Virgil had his gun in a waistband. It wasn't even a gun holster or belt. So anyway, they're relieved. Okay, we're still going to go down there, but they think that there's no guns. And
you think they think that?
They think that, yes, because they mentioned how they had put their guns away. They believed the sheriff. Why would he lie to us?
Yeah.
He says, I've already disarmed him.
I don't want to overplay this part, but at this point, how many of these people do you think are in some degree intoxicated?
Well, Ike is definitely intoxicated.
Okay.
I don't know that Doc Holliday was intoxicated. Some people believe that he might have been, but from what I've read, I mean, he had just gotten up a short time before. I mean, there's no accounts of him carousing in the bars and all that stuff. So I don't think he was inebriated, but he might have had a few drinks. I mean, I don't know.
But they're like there's a clear-headed quality.
Yes,
Yeah.
Wyatt Earp wasn't known to drink.
Okay.
I can't say he was a teetotaler, but some people do. But he abstained for the most part. Virgil hadn't been drinking. Morgan probably hadn't been drinking, and I really don't think either of the McClary brothers, Frank or Tom, had been drinking.
Okay.
Or Billy Clanton, who was just like 19 years old. But Ike was definitely, I mean, he was way over the top, out of control, drunk. And like I said, it was all his ranting and raving and threats that really brought this to a head. So they get close, and now keep in mind, this lot that they're in near the OK Corral is, they say, from 15 to 19 feet wide. It's a very constricted space. There's actually a couple of horses there. They come down there, and the first thing they see is these guys have their guns. They are armed. And so the first thing Virgil says, boys, I want your guns. Well, they immediately reach for their guns, and Virgil says, hold, I don't want that. He holds the cane up. And Wyatt Earp admitted in his testimony that he was the first one to fire. He fires at Frank McClary. He said, I fired first because he considered Frank to be the best shot and the coolest under fire. So he wants to take him out first. And he hits him in the stomach, doesn't kill him right away. So Wyatt Earp actually opens the gunfight there at the OK Corral. After that,
if he hadn't shot, do you think there would have been shots fired?
I don't know. I do know that Wyatt Earp thought that there were going to be shot, or he wouldn't have done that.
Okay.
He felt that it was imminent. In fact, they even talked about, they kept bringing up the word fight. They talked about fight. What if they fight? Well, we'll shoot their horses and, all this kind of stuff. They were kind of thinking about it. Wyatt said, we were pretty sure they were going to fight. And so when they looked like they were going for their guns, not to just turn them over, but to actually, kill, he decides, I'm going to take out, and that's what he testified. I took him out first. And there's just that very split second. In fact, they say that Wyatt shot and the shot from Frank, which missed, were with a split second. I mean, they thought it was a single shot. It was very close. And then there was this brief hesitation or pause. It was almost like this second where, is this really happening? It's like they're kind of processing this. We've actually started this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just gets crazy. 30 seconds, 30 shots. Doc Holliday fires his shotgun at Tom McClary, who's kind of hiding behind a horse. Wyatt ends up hitting the horse. The horse, jerks away. And then Doc Holliday hits him once in the side with the one barrel. And Tom McClary starts running away and collapses like less than a block away. I mean, sent like 14 pellets right into his chest cavity. Doc tried to shoot a second time. Something malfunctioned with his gun. He throws it down. The shotgun, he throws it down. He goes for his revolver. By this time, we have Frank McClary. He's wounded in the stomach. He's kind of holding onto this horse, getting out to the middle of the street. The horse breaks away. And Doc Holliday is getting ready to shoot. That's when Frank says, Doc Holliday, I have you now, or whatever. And Doc Holliday says, you're a daisy if you do. And Doc Holliday fires, but also before Doc Holliday could fire.
Back up.
Okay.
Why does he yell, Doc Holliday, I have you now?
Because he had his gun on him. Doc Holliday's out there in the street. He has no protection.
But he decides just to advertise this.
Yeah, he says, I have you now. And then Doc Holliday, and this is in the testimony, says, you're a daisy if you have. But Morgan Earp, he ends up shooting Frank and hits him in the head, and Frank just goes down immediately. And there's a big scuffle. I mean, as people are starting, it's 30 seconds. People are starting to gather, and they're gathering around Frank McClary, who's down here on the ground. and Doc Holliday's starting to yell, "He tried to kill me. I'm going to kill that SOB or whatever." And they're pulling him back. Morgan Earp, he was hit across his shoulder blades, but he's the one that, even on the ground, he raises his revolver. He's the one that kills, essentially the killing shot of Frank McClory. There's one other individual, Billy Clanton. He's up against the wall of this building on the side of the lot, and he's wounded several times. And as he's kind of, sliding down against the wall, he's fiddling with his revolver. And C.S. Sly, the gallery owner, he has a Henry rifle. He goes up to him and he takes the revolver away. And Billy Clanton says, "Can you get me more cartridges?" He's saying, "I need more cartridges," or whatever. Yeah. And they take him to a building, and he has a gruesome death. I mean, people are coming in and get the people away, get the crowd away. And it was not a pleasant death for him.
What about Drunk Ike? What was going on with him?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes. So that's one of the big things in the gunfight. Ike suddenly sobers up and he runs up to Wyatt after those first shots and he says, I'm unarmed. He says, well, the fight has commenced. Get out of here. The fight has commenced. And so Ike takes off running. He just runs. So
Wyatt has a chance just to shoot him.
He could have shot him, yes, but he says the fight has commenced and get out of here or get armed or whatever. I can't remember the exact phrase, but he does say the fight has commenced and he pushes Ike away.
These guys have things they say that just people wouldn't say nowadays.
Yeah, that's true.
In a fight.
Yeah. It is so surreal.
I've got you now.
Yeah.
We can bring that back.
Yeah. It's so
the fight has commenced.
Yeah. It's so surreal also because, there's black powder smoke, there's flame coming out of the barrels of these pistols, and Ike is up there with Wyatt trying, I'm unarmed, and don't shoot me. And
he's the reason they're there.
He's the reason they're there, yes. And he runs away. Doesn't help his brother. His poor little brother's getting murdered.
And gets out of there unhurt.
Unscathed, yes. Yeah. And then Ike later, of course, he presses charges against the Earps and Holliday, and that's how we have this hearing. It's called the Spicer hearing. And it's pages and pages of testimony. And it's some of the most confusing reading. It's like one person says one thing, the other person was the other, and they're eyewitnesses. Nobody really agrees with one another. And my favorite quote is from the dressmaker across the street. And she saw the whole thing, and they asked her a specific question. She goes, I don't know. It was all confusion. It was. And even for the people that were involved, it was confusion. It was just a total chaos in those 30
Little
seconds.
Bighorn.
Exactly, yeah. But guess who's not hurt? Wyatt Earp, the one guy that doesn't get, other than Ike, not a scratch on Wyatt Earp, and he's right in the middle of it. Virgil Earp's wounded. Doc Holliday gets a flesh wound in his hip. Morgan Earps gets a pretty serious wound in his shoulder. And then later, Doc Holliday goes up to his room, and Kate Elder's there, Big Nose Kate, and she writes about this, and he starts crying, and he says, it was awful, just awful.
What didn't you like about it?
I think the killing. Even though Doc is angry, it's like, when you kill somebody, I think that's a whole different layer, right?
Yeah.
I think these men.
I didn't mean that like that. I thought there's some other, because when I said that, what was he crying about? Like none of his buddies got killed.
Yeah, no, but I think it's just the fact these men were killed.
Yeah, I understand.
And they had to. But it wasn't about his wound. It was just this. It was horrific to him that they, he sent 14 pellets into the chest cavity of Tom McClory, and he's dead. So it was, I think, very sobering. But yeah, Ike Clanton is the villain in all that. He's the one that really egged things on, and and Ike Clanton gets killed himself. A few years later, and again he's running away. There were some guys looking for him for rustling cattle and
looking for him for something unrelated.
Yeah, unrelated to this. And he approached his cabin. He didn't know that these guys are in there. And as soon as he does, he jumps on his horse and starts, skedaddling. And this is, nobody's afraid to shoot somebody in the back if you're a lawman. So they blaze away at him, and he tumbles off his horse. And it's the one time he wasn't able to run away. So,
wow, dude, that's great. I now understand.
Good.
Things out.
Good.
There's the pre and post understanding, Steve.
Well, it's more clear in the book.
I'm sure.
I'm a much better writer than I am a narrator. So.
Well, that must mean you're pretty hell of a good writer.
Oh, well, thanks. I hope so, yeah.
What's your next book you're doing?
So the next book is focusing on Jesse and Frank James in the Civil War as bushwhackers. and under Bloody Bill Anderson and Quantrill.
Their
and,
Civil War time.
Yes, and how that leads to their outlawry. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the birth of the American outlaw, because they're really the quintessential outlaw, Jesse and Frank James, the James Younger gang. So that the book is called Bushwhackers, actually. So it's going to focus on that period. But like I say, take us into how that led to their outlaw career.
We just spent some time reading about, because this project we're working on about the buffalo hide hunters. One of the main buffalo hide hunters that wrote a very good account of his time. He was involved in those borderland Civil War skirmishes, and man, that was like the paramilitary shit.
Mm-hmm. The border ruffians,
this the kind of like the plainclothes paramilitary aspect of the Civil War is gruesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bloody Bill, he earned that appellation. I mean, he had scalps tied to his horse's bridle. I mean, they scalped the soldiers that they killed. I mean, the hatred was so deep.
Yeah.
I mean, so deep. And the things they were doing to one. I mean, one of the things that led to Jesse joining up with the Quantrill or Bloody Bill was, these federal militia came to the home of his stepfather and mother, and they whipped him trying to get information where Frank was. And then they strung up his stepfather, Dr. Reuben Samuel. Some people think that it actually caused brain damage. They strung him up. They didn't kill him. And it was so painful that the stepfather actually did tell him where Frank and the other bushwhackers were. But I mean, to see that as a teenager, and then the things he experienced as a teenager in battle, and to see his friends killed, to kill people. I mean, he was indoctrinated to this violence at just the right age to become a way of life.
Mm-hmm. Ron Hansen.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what he says in his book that I don't know if it's true. Maybe you can tell me if it's true or not. I've asked a lot of people this. His book is The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford. So Robert Ford was then assassinated.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So Robert Ford kills Jesse James. Then a guy comes to kill Robert Ford.
Ed Kelly.
And in his book, in Hansen's book, he says that the guy that kills Robert Ford has a coach gun. Not only is the coach gun loaded with shot, but he takes a bunch of pipe filings. He explains that he takes little sections of pipe and takes a cold chisel and starts knocking off pipe fragments and uses a funnel to fill the barrels full of pipe fragments. And you hear different accounts. Robert Ford gets cut in half near the neck or gets cut in half near the waist. Is that true?
So the pipe filing story, I just looked the reports from Creede, Colorado up that were published in the papers in 1892. And I've seen no mentions of the pipe filings.
Okay.
But
so Ron Hansen maybe made that up.
Maybe, yeah. And then but as far as the reports do say, it like severed the jugular. It was in the neck area and just ripped it out. It said that, Ed Kelly, it was kind of interesting because Ed Kelly was kind of standing at the entrance to the bar, and that he had a Confederate or somebody that came up and handed him the shotgun. He didn't walk up with the shotgun in his hands. Someone handed him the shotgun, and then he raised it up and he said, "Hello, Bob," which is what Billy said. Billy said that, too. And Bob turns around and he said Bob Ford started to go for his vest or hip pocket, and just as he was reaching down, that he let go with the shotgun, and it said, it knocked Bob Ford back, and it said he rolled over on his side and died just like that with his hand still on his hip. And there was apparently Ed Kelly walked up and there was a gun, a revolver there, and Ed Kelly took the gun. But Ed Kelly ends up getting killed, in Oklahoma later. He goes
like Russian nesting dolls of gunshot wounds.
He goes to prison. But all these people,
and he just killed Ford just to be the guy that killed Ford.
I think so. Yeah. Well, some people say he might have had some kind of connection with Jesse. But here's the cool thing: guess who showed up at the funeral of Bob Ford in Creede? Frank James.
What?
Yes, Frank James went
to pay his respects.
to make sure, I think that Bob Ford was dead. I mean, and I also think just to stand over him and say, you killed my brother, and
not
still here.
Not to pay his respects.
Yeah, not to pay his respects. No, but yeah, he made the trip from Missouri to Creed. But anyway, Ed Kelly is killed. Well, all these people write a letter to get him released from prison a few years later, and he's released. But then I can't remember the town in Oklahoma. But he's kind of a belligerent character, and he gets in a feud with the local policeman, and then they have a fight, and they're grappling with one another, and he's trying to get the policeman's gun. Ed Kelly fired all his bullets and was out, and actually hits himself in the leg. But they're still grappling, and this policeman's trying to, get his gun back, and so apparently a bystander went up and grabbed Ed Kelly's arm so the policeman could get his gun, and then he shoots and kills Ed Kelly. So that's the demise of Kelly, yeah.
So did anybody then avenge?
No, I don't think so. I think that's where the story ends.
Wow, I didn't know that detail.
Yeah, but the Bob Ford, it's a sad story. He thought he was going to be a hero for killing Jesse James, and his brother Charlie commits suicide, and I think he commits suicide because he's dealing with the effects of having been a part of this. And they have a stage play. They go around and they're booed, and it's really a lot like the movie, actually. And I think the movie's great. I think Brad Pitt's the best.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, the best Jesse James ever. But no, it's he thought he was going to be wealthy, and he was killing this famous outlaw, but nobody thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, Steve. I mean, this was like a paid political assassination. He wasn't arrested. I mean, he hadn't been tried. The governor was in cahoots and actually, organized this assassination. It was a government-funded assassination. I mean, Jesse had been convicted of no robbery whatsoever.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, interesting point.
Yeah, and then Jesse had always said, and Frank says, all we want is a fair trial or whatever. And Frank,
but those guys were cold-blooded.
Well,
killers,
they were,
dude.
but here's my point. So Frank James, because he sees the writing on the wall, he thinks, who's going to come after me? He says, I could be out chopping wood and somebody's going to shoot me or whatever. So he arranges this surrender to the governor, and Frank is tried twice for a crime in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and also for in Gallatin for the crime of a train robbery where a man was murdered near Winston, Missouri, and he's acquitted in both things. He never committed a crime for the rest of his life. He actually did exactly what he was going to say. All I want is a fair trial. He got it, and he was a perfect citizen. And this is the other bizarre thing about Frank and Jesse. A lot of people think of them as like psychopaths. Like you said, they're murderers or whatever. Man, their wives, after they were dead, both of them said that was the best husband you could ever have. I mean, they swore they were just the most gentle, the best husband that you could ever have. About Frank and Jesse.
Hadn't met me.
Well, that's right. Well, here's what I think about it. Have you read the book American Sniper by Chris Kyle?
No.
Okay.
I'm familiar with it.
Okay. Well, Chris Kyle writes about how the war in the Middle East, he was a sniper, and how it can numb you to the violence and the killing. And there's one point in here where he talks about, at a distance, he shoots this enemy on a motorcycle, and there's a guy with him, a spotter. And the guy falls off his motorcycle kind of funny, and they're laughing about it. They're laughing about killing this guy.
Yeah.
He's become numb. He's over there, he's seeing us, he's killing people. And I think that's what the Civil War did to Frank and Jesse. They did so much killing that they were just numb to the violence. And yet they could still, Jesse had 2 children, he could be a loving father, but if you threaten me or you get in my way, he had no hesitation about killing you. I mean, it meant nothing to him to kill somebody. So it's this weird dichotomy, you can be a family man, but yet you can kill at the flip of a switch.
Yeah. I like those understandings though. I mean, it's just like the complexities of people's motivations. We get into that a fair bit and talk about these like I keep talking about this hide hunter thing.
Sure.
Just how much people have put these guys like these, like they're just doing it for the killing buffalo for the purpose of denying the future of the animals. Do you know what I mean? When it was like a much more complex picture of Civil War economics, right?
Now, is that an audiobook? Or?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when's that coming out?
It's already out.
Oh, cool.
You can go listen right now, bro.
I'll have to listen to it.
Wherever you get your audiobooks.
Okay.
What? Tell me some banjo jokes. Grab that banjo and tell me.
Okay,
You said you know more banjo jokes
I
than
know a
anybody
lot
on
of
the
banjo
planet.
folks. So, what do you call a pretty gal on a banjo player's arm?
I got nothing.
A tattoo. What do you say to a banjo player in a 3-piece suit? Will the defendant please rise?
Very good.
Those are really old jokes, so I'm glad you'd never heard any of them before.
No, I haven't heard those.
So this is a 5-string banjo, a Vega Folk Ranger 1963. The style I play is a historic style. It's called Freyland or clawhammer, but it's an African style. I mean, the banjo is an African instrument.
Did not know.
Yeah, it was called a banzar, a banja. Anyway, the knowledge of the banjo was brought here by the enslaved. And, they tried to take everything from their humanity, but once they got to the New World, they made the things from their culture, and the banjo was one. It was a gourd with the stick attached. And
oh, really?
Anyway, yeah. So the banjo is a survivor of that really awful era. So what do you want to hear? Anything?
Give me some options.
Okay. Well, I got Old Dan Tucker. Let's do Old Dan Tucker. Do one verse. Old Dan Tucker down in town, ride a goat and lean a hound. The hound gave a howl, the goat gave a jump. Throwed old Dan a straddle a stump. Get out the way, get out the way, get out the way. Old Dan Tucker, he's too late to get his supper. Get out the way, get out the way, get out the way. Old Dan Tucker, he's too late to get his supper.
All right.
There you go.
Hit us with another one. That was so short.
Not so short.
Hit us with 2 more shorties.
Okay, all right. Get out the way. Get out the way.
Different song.
Yeah,
I heard some turkey in the straw.
Yeah. Turkey in the straw. Turkey in the head. Bullfrog dance with his mother-in-law. Play a little tune called Turkey in the Straw.
Oh, that is a different song.
Yeah, it is a different song. I sang it right. Here's one.
I'm sorry.
Here's
I
one.
thought you meant that. I'm sorry. I thought you meant that I was asking for more Dan Tucker.
Oh, no. I just
sorry.
messed it up. But here's
okay.
one you'll like. I'll just do one verse. Let's see. If Jesse was your friend, on him you could depend. If it be true, I am sure he always wore the belt that would equalize the wealth. He would rob the rich, poor the poor. It was with his brother Frank, he robbed the Gallatin Bank, carried the money from the town. It was at that very place they had a little chase, for they shot Captain Sheets to the ground. Jesse had a wife, the pride of his life. His children, they were brave. But the dirty little coward that shot Mr. Howard has laid Jesse James in his grave.
Very good.
He's speaking about Fort.
Yes. Dirty little coward.
And Jesse James was living under the name
Mr. Howard, yeah.
Wow. Dude, that's great, man.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
So your work as a historian and your interest in banjo playing, are they like hand in hand, or was it different paths?
No, it's hand in hand. But of course, I always, as a kid, was fascinated by the banjo. And then my first, and I was starting to take lessons. And anyway, my first summer job at the Park Service was at a place called Bent's Old Fort National Historic Site near LaHunta. They were big in the buffalo robe trade on the Southern Plains. And so I had my banjo there, and I quickly learned that Scruggs style playing was not around in the 1840s. That's 1940s. So I started getting interested in the historic styles of playing the banjo and the historic music. Mm-hmm. And even today, when I'm doing research in diaries and journals, if there's a reference to a song or a tune, I make note of that. And so I'll do it in my programs. I'll do programs of historic music of the West.
John Cook's memoir is full of songs.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
You did the definitive guide to the Santa Fe wagons. You ought to do the history of the banjo.
Well,
book on that.
There's been some books on that actually. So somebody beat me to the punch on that one. But to me, it helps bring history alive when you can play the music. The Jesse James or Billy the Kid. Billy the Kid. was a huge fan of Turkey in the Straw. But he was actually, but he didn't call it Turkey in the Straw. He would tell the musician, he was a great dancer, went to the bailes and fandangos. He would say to the musicians, don't forget the gallina. Don't forget to play the gallina.
Huh.
So in New Mexico, well, in the New World, the Spaniards did not have a term for the wild turkey. So they called it the gallina de la tierra, the chicken of the region or the earth.
Yeah, but what about the guajolote?
The guajolote?
Yeah, like in Sonora, they call turkeys guajolote.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
You didn't know? Okay.
No, but anyway, in New Mexico, they refer to the wild turkey as the gallina. So when Billy the Kid said, don't forget the gallina, he meant turkey in the straw.
Really?
Yeah.
I got one last question for you.
Okay.
Because you strike me as a fellow that would be able to do this. What, you big turkey hunter?
Okay.
Do you mouth call? Natural mouth call?
No, I don't. Oh, I have done natural mouth call sometimes, yes. But
Let's hear it.
it's not very good. It's ow, 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 ow.
Yeah, that's
Good
It's
enough.
it's just, I mean, I just throw that in. Usually I do.
when I think of Missouri,
yeah.
turkey hunting, I think of dudes that can tear it up.
That's just in my, toolbox. Usually I've got a wing bone call, I got a slate call, then I got a giant box call.
Got
So I
it.
got those three, and then sometimes I'll throw in, that other sound, which isn't as good as those other things.
Yeah.
But next time I'll have to tell you the time I was attacked by a coyote while I was turkey hunting.
Here, just rip it right now.
Okay.
And then we'll finish. That's the
Okay,
last-
all right.
that's the last part.
That's what I grew up in a town of 500 people, so most
Okay.
people know me there as the guy that got attacked by the coyote, not an author.
Not an author.
Yeah. So I'm set up with my back to a tree,
Okay.
all right? And I've got and I hear these couple of gobblers really far away. So I got this box call, and I'm holding it up here, and I'm trying to, get this sound to them. And all of a sudden, I see like this patch of fur just kind of appears here. And then I hear this pain on my arm. And then I see bounding away this coyote. So it saw that movement.
Yeah.
And I had a gobbler decoy out there too. So I guess he thought there were a bunch of turkeys. So he bites down on here, then he bounds away. I didn't really think much of it because the pain went away quickly. And so a few minutes later, the gobbler comes in and I shoot my gobbler.
Wow.
Yeah. So and then I get home. I get where I was staying with my at my parents' house, and I take off my wool shirt and there's blood. And I said, oh, well, I didn't know it was that bad or whatever. And my mom says, you better call your doctor or whatever. So I called the doctor, and he says, you got to get a rabies shot. And I said, well, the coyote looked pretty healthy. It didn't look like it. I didn't want to get a rabies shot. He says, Mark, there's no cure. Either you get who knows? So, okay, I go to the emergency room in Liberty, Missouri, and they start the rabies shot process, go around the wound with all these different things. And I'm talking to the emergency room doctor, and he's he asked me, well, how'd this happen? And then what do you do for a living? I'm a historian, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you sure lead an interesting life. And I thought, you're an emergency room doctor. You've got to have better stories than I do. But anyway, that's my story. I got attacked by a coyote, and I tell people, I said, I'm a pretty good turkey caller. I fooled a coyote.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
You got a wedding ring on.
Yes.
How long you been married?
I've been married since the early 1980s. I'm not sure what year, but anyway, yes.
Good run.
I know. I'm sorry. Hopefully, my wife's not listening.
Yeah. What's the secret to a big long marriage like that?
My wife and I share a lot of interests. She's a museum curator. She very interested in history in the past, and we love visiting historic sites together. I don't know that my children enjoyed that as much as my wife and I did, but we took them too, just like my parents took me. But it's really kind of a common shared interest in the past, and we find artifacts fascinating and the stories of real people in the past, and we even find our own family histories interesting. She's really big into her own genealogy, and her family made a real mark in Ute Pass, Colorado. I've been there for decades and decades.
Okay. All right. Mark Lee Gardner's brand spickety new book, Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, and A Reckoning in Tombstone, Brothers of the Gun is what it's called. Got a lot of other books. Fantastic storyteller. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yay, thank you for having me. Yeah,
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
thanks.